If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Join the over 21,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/C-suite. netsuite.com/C-suite.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and as always, I'm here with the homie Kevin.
Heyo, what's good tonight?
And we got a guest. So if you guys remember back to episode 6, we were back in the early days of the podcast. Not to say that these still aren't the early days of the podcast. We had a guest on for the Justice League preview podcast, and his name was Caleb. He brought his extremely high genius intellect to the podcast to help us fully understand.
Wait, before you keep going, get your phone out so you can record this. Okay. Seriously.
I thought that was the point of the podcast.
Well, he needs. I mean, come on. This would be like his optimal ringtone. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, hey, I'm the shit.
Yep. Well, now, Kevin, you've gone to ruin the moment.
I'm not ruining the moment. You can go on.
But we are joined with Caleb again. Caleb, welcome back to the podcast, my brother.
I'm thrrougd to be back. I've been waiting ever since the moment I stepped out of this room the last time. Yeah. Been waiting to get back in here. You know, I've texted you like 100 ideas. Like, hey, we can do this.
Yes.
So, I'm very glad to be here today.
Oh yeah, man! It's definitely good to have you back. And you know what? It's our bad because I forgot to tell you, but you were actually 2017 Guest of the Year. So congratulations on that.
Dang, is there like a cupcake or a trophy or something like that?
Well, no. You get to come back. That's what the prize.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. I think I've listened to all of these, and I think I am the only guest host for 2017.
You must have missed one or two somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Oh man, but today is going to be a really, really cool podcast. So it's going to be the first of this type of podcast that we've done ever here on Superhero Homies. We're going to be covering the Punisher TV series on Netflix. And the reason why I said that this is going to be so different is because even though we've covered movies and we've talked about television shows, we never really took a television show and then reviewed it. So this won't be like a super in-depth analysis, scene by scene breakdown of every single episode. But what this will be, though, is like an overall look at the synopsis and plot and the character developments and what we get out of the series. And since Punisher is so good, we figured that this would definitely be a great series to do that with. And this was actually Caleb's idea. He brought this to me one day, and I was like, "That's a really good and daunting idea." I was like, "If we're gonna do it, you're gonna be on it."
When it goes completely south, you will never hear my voice on this podcast again.
Oh, but as always, though, before we start tonight, got a little bit of comic news. We're gonna start things off here with tonight. So the first little bit here in the comic news section is Logan, the movie, of course, wins the Art Directors Guild Award for Best Contemporary Film Feature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Logan won another award. Well, it was nominated for an Oscar, of course, and we'll see how that goes. And
you know what we're going to have to do eventually? After Oscars is done with, we're going to have to go and buy the movie all over again. Because then you know they're going to re-release the movie out, but with special like stickers and advertising on the front that says, winner of such and such, and this Oscar and all this. And it's going to be like, I want that.
Yeah.
It's no different, but
yeah, I was going to say, unless they go back and film new scenes that they did not film.
Don't care.
Then I would not do it. But yeah, go Logan. But while we're in that same vein, I'm going to skip here and go to another bit of comic news here. One that was is equally funny and interesting. James Mangold shits all over comic book movies. He does it again. This isn't the first time that he's done this. Of course, James Mangold is the director of the movie Logan and also the Wolverine. And even though he's done Logan, which is one of the greatest, in our opinions, one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, he does not like superhero movies. But in this regard here specifically, he shits on the use of post-credit scenes. He thinks that it's just
really?
Yeah, he views it as a shitty ploy because it typically has nothing to do with the actual movie. And he says that it's just a ploy to sell people on a product that hasn't even been developed yet.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true because you see the post-credit scene and it's like, oh, there's always going to be something about this next movie coming out. Like, oh, the big purple guy on screen and, shit like that.
Yeah.
He made a good point. True. I mean, I don't agree with him. I love the post-credit scenes, but he did make a good point. Yeah. He was like, I'm a filmmaker. I want my movies to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And the post-credit scene kind of will take away from the ending of the movie. It's like, okay, well, that's over with, and now we have this.
Well, it also explains why Logan didn't piss around with that idea. We went into Johnny Cash, and then no post credits at all.
Yeah,
but the Wolverine did have one, and I'm assuming Fox probably forced that on him to promote.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think the entire that entire last scene. That last fight, I think I can just imagine James Mangold while filming Logan was just like kicking an assistant to death because he probably hated doing that scene. Of course, the scene with the giant as Silver Samurai robot thing.
Oh, right. Where it was Wolverine versus Optimus Prime.
Yeah, it was so out of place with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we had to watch it, so he deserves it.
Number 2, the Ant-Man and Wasp trailer. What you guys think of that?
I love it.
I did enjoy it too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a great trailer. I mean, once again, Ant-Man the original Ant-Man movie. I didn't know how Marvel would be able to pull off such a thing and make it entertaining, but they did.
Yeah,
right.
And
wait a minute. Oh, I see. She got the newer technology. No, I had those.
Yeah.
You just didn't get blasters.
And I'm kind of glad that they addressed that because it's kind of true.
Yeah.
But yeah, that trailer looks super hype. These are not my comic notes. The trailer looks super hype though, and I can't wait. They also showed the what I'm assuming is going to be the villain, Ghost. Looks like a character from Destiny. That was
my exact thought too. Like his helmet, it was like how do you see through that helmet?
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. In the comics, Ghost was a he, but in the movie, it was obviously a female. So interesting to see how that turn's going to go. Once again, I don't think anyone really cares. So
Lawrence Fishburne was in the movie too.
As Bill Foster,
right. So I mean, I'm sold. Right there.
Done. Yes, he's playing Goliath. So. I mean, that's going to be super interesting. And it makes sense because he's about the same age as Hank Pym in this movie. So having Goliath and that man both be in it should be good. It should be fun. Hopefully the evil Thor clone is not in there. Otherwise, Bill Foster will most definitely die. Moving on here. The Metropolis TV show is in production now, so cool. I mean they're going all in with Superman again. It seems like between the Krypton TV show that Sci-Fi's working on, and now this new show Metropolis. I don't know a whole lot about it yet, other than the fact that they're working on it.
And we already got Supergirl on the air.
Supergirl's on the air. I mean, there's a lot of Superman love going on nowadays.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I haven't watched Supergirl at all. Honestly, how is it? Have you guys caught up at all?
Skip the first season. So the first season was on CBS.
Okay.
And so it's very, very... I felt like the first season, at least what I watched of it, was very heavily marketed to females. It was very much a girl power, we're gonna market feminism to you type show.
Okay. That's cool.
It was way over the top, but... And it was like super PG as well. Oh. Once they brought it to CW and they tied it into the universe, they started getting really into like Krypton mythology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They introduced other aliens from like
that could be a little bit more fascinating. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Universe. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about did you see the Supergirl Flash crossover? Wasn't that season 1?
Yeah. So that they were still trying to keep it separate.
Oh, okay.
So the way that they tied it in is like her universe is separate.
Yeah,
from all the other CW universes, but she can cross over. Cisco ends up making her a device where she can just pop over whenever. Yeah, he was like, while I was eating my breakfast, I made this dimensional wormhole generator for you, and
right.
What a cover!
Yeah. Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. It works for me.
Is Cisco still wearing Big Bang Theory shirts?
He's wearing all kinds of shirts still, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He still has like the best shirts on the show, in my opinion. But yeah, so we still got to wait and see really what this Metropolis show is going to be about, because I think they said it's going to focus a lot on Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. It's going to focus a lot on those two characters pre-Superman.
So we get to see some more Jesse Eisenberg. I thought that was funny. I was just imagining Jesse Eisenberg all of a sudden popping over to the TV role real quick. In my mind, it was funny, but I really hope that's not what happens.
And he's just a completely chill, not even like frantic character.
Yeah.
He's not even sociopathic. He's just like growing up Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he's like, what's the stock price looking like today?
Right. Then something happens on the last episode.
Exactly, and then he flips his shit.
The whole show is just turns out as a Lex Luthor like origin story.
Exactly,
like, I did the brain explode motion there, in case anybody.
Oh, yeah, it's true. No one can see us.
Next up, Kevin Feige is not planning on introducing the X-Men or Fantastic Four into the universe quite yet.
Okay.
So as of now, he has no current plans, and I figured as much just because, and he had good reasoning. You know, he said, well, right now we have all of this planned out already, and we can't really interrupt what we have going on now to introduce this new element. He said, when we do it, we want to make sure that it's done right, and it's going to be something that the fans can really love and appreciate.
Right.
I
think you said it well the first time when I asked you, how soon do you think it'll be till we see something like this? Because I remember we were talking, I can't remember which episode it was, so go back and listen to all of them. But it was something along the lines of, we don't want it to feel wedged in. Like, we did it just for fan service rather than quality storytelling. And that's exactly what it would be. So thank you, other Kevin.
Right.
We don't just want like Captain America to get smashed into a diner in Infinity War, and he looks over and Wolverine is like drinking a beer at the counter.
I know, right?
And he's like, "What's up, bub?" And then the camera pans back, and that's it. You know, we would all get up and leave. You know?
Right.
I mean, I'd like it a little bit, but then it'd be like, okay, wait, that's all we're getting. Oh, this became some shit.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't need to be shoehorned in like
Exactly.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
And plus, I think that Marvel knows they're in a comfortable position now where they're going to make buku money regardless of if they have the X-Men and Fantastic Four in the universe or not. You know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he also, you know, I've been following that story, and he basically, I think some of the media outlets like comicbook.com, shout out, give us money.
Yeah.
They sort of played with the headline a little bit, like Kevin Feige says, no plans to introduce X-Men in the MCU. But what he actually said was, we have movies planned out through the end of 2019, and we're not going to change those to wedge them in. 2020 and beyond, I'm sure they're going to use the license.
Oh, hell yeah.
The deal hasn't even gone through all the regulatory process yet, so it could just not even happen. I mean, he said, too, nobody from Disney has come down and said, okay, well, you guys can use these characters yet.
Yeah.
So until they get that, you know.
Right.
I was not aware of that detail. That's cool.
Yeah, it's not finalized. Like
they say when it's like another year at the most.
Yeah, there's a ton of like corporate red tape and all that has to be cut through to finalize it.
For as slow as that crap normally is, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be the largest movie studio entity in existence
ever.
Yeah.
And plus, with the added rumors that Sony are selling some of their assets, once again, that's just a rumor. But you know that that just makes it even like an even bigger prospect. Like, because if Sony is indeed reportedly selling some of their assets, such as their full Spider-Man universe, I'm sure that maybe Marvel, Disney would be interested in purchasing those as well. But
Warner Brothers should buy it.
that would be amazing.
Tom Holland's contract and everything. Just buy it right on.
That would be freaking amazing.
Dang.
Early reports say that Eric Killmonger is one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe villains. And this was pleasantly surprising to me. I don't, of course, want to delve too deep into this because within the next week and a half or so, we're going to be balls deep in Black Panther, no homo intended.
Oh, gosh.
By we, he means the two of them.
No. We're pulling you back.
I'd certainly mean the three of us will all at the same time be balls deep in Black Panther. My point is, though, with Eric Killmonger, just from the trailers, I was afraid that Michael B. Jordan was just going to be this, this run-of-the-mill villain who really didn't have much of a plot point or purpose.
Right.
But early reports from people who have seen the movie, critics and audience members alike, are saying the opposite, saying he's one of the best, which is really good. That's really good news for this movie.
And you would be right to assume that based on Hollywood's treatment of him and also Marvel's treatment of villains. You put the two together and you're like, oh man, they just handed him another garbage role. I was very happy to read that. That he's like the standout. I mean, he's right up there with Loki is what I've heard.
Yeah.
So.
Man,
damn,
that is incredible.
Very good to hear.
Yeah, and I
Please
think
don't kill him.
Yeah, don't kill him. Don't kill him. I mean, and also I think I was talking to you about this, Kevin. I said I was also worried because there's going to be 3 villains in this movie, like three of his biggest villains.
Which is a whole lot.
That's a lot. But so we'll see how this goes.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
I think I mentioned it too, where Michael B. Jordan was actually talking about his opinion on all of this huge take and whatnot, because it was a very small article I read. But it was him talking about how he does wish for this to be his resurrection in the comic movie universe because of his Fantastic Four, reference from before. It was just like, okay, let this please be better.
It would be very difficult to not be better.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, if he never mentions it again, then we'll never mention it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Until we review
After we see the movie.
Until we review Fantastic Four.
Is that going to happen?
Are we what?
I definitely don't want to.
Oh shit, we did talk about that.
We did. We talked about doing a podcast about the top 5 worst comic book movies ever.
Yeah.
I just listened to the Iron Man 3 podcast.
Well, that's why we got to put some space between it.
He was telling me about that. Yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah, you guys went way too easy on Iron Man 3. I like that film way less than you guys did. Go listen to that episode, and my opinion is like that minus 50.
Oh shit! Oh man. Next up, Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle's wedding will be Wednesday, July 4th, in Batman issue number 50. If that's not newsworthy, I don't know what is.
So long, Independence Day. There's a new holiday.
That's right.
On that day.
Well, shit, dude. I mean, I'm gonna put this in the calendar for.
Yes, July the 4th this year.
Here's a question for you guys, just off the cuff. If you had to buy Batman a wedding gift, what would it be?
Damn, what do you
Batman and Selena.
Yeah, because like, what do you get a billionaire?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Damien, so probably condoms.
Yeah, as far as Damien goes, like, I wonder which half of him did the asshole come from? Was it Talia or Bruce? I don't know.
It could have been either. I think
at that point,
I think it's a little bit of both, and some Roz.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
grandfather.
that. It's like, shut up, kid. You only got his green eyes.
Oh, damn.
Every time he mentions how cool his grandfather is, you have to take a shot. New drinking game.
Oh. And the last bit of comic news for today is Marvel teases more details on the new Avengers game they're working on.
Saw that.
Yes. So I'm very, very excited about this because it's been a really long time since we've gotten like a standalone Marvel video game. I mean, like, not counting the Marvel vs. Capcom series, like, what's the last game we've gotten?
Ultimate Alliance 2.
Yeah.
On 360, which had the Civil War storyline.
Yes, it did.
And it was fantastic.
It was,
yeah. No, it was.
Had a Secret War and Civil War storyline.
Yep.
Yeah. That was a really good game.
Huh.
Yeah. And I hope it's Ultimate Alliance 3 that they're working on. That would be fantastic.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would love for them to do, like, an MCU style. I want to say they previously have said that this will not fit into the MCU, that it won't be MCU canon. But I would love if they did do like an MCU base and got like all the voice actors.
Oh man!
Oh,
yes.
that'd be great.
Yes.
Just do like a really high quality version of that. That would be incredible.
That would be.
I wonder if our boys who are leaving the MCU would come back for that.
Right?
Yeah. Like Chris Evans and Robert Downey. Yeah.
I mean, not to disparage voice actors anyway. I mean,
right.
I have a lot of reverence for voice actors, but there's a huge difference between spending 8 hours in a booth, for a few weeks versus spending a year on a film set.
Right.
Yeah. True that.
You can wear what you want.
Yeah. Oh, Robert, you're in the PJs again, I see. Okay, that's cool.
You don't have to do wigs and makeup and all that.
Right. All right. That's it for comic news this week. But now...
Oh, yeah, you were talking about this the other day.
We have the comic question of the week.
Shit.
And now I have 2 people to ask it to, so this makes it even better.
See, this is where I imagine, Caleb. I have to be honest here. I always imagine, like, I'm going to answer the question, and it's going to be like the Solomon Grundy riddle. Like, I always imagine in the background, like, Kevin, no, that's not right, buddy. Yeah. So, at this point...
I was shouting at my radio on that one, because I usually listen to this in my car through the Bluetooth. That one, and then the...
Which other one?
It was the one where it was on the Watchmen podcast.
Oh yeah. Which work did Alan Moore not produce? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, that's the one I got right?
Yeah, you got that one right. Yeah,
I did. Damn it!
It was V for Vendetta.
That's the one. Yeah, there's been very few.
But yeah, I gave you. I didn't really tell you anything. I just said it's going to be interesting.
Right? Yeah, you didn't tell me crap. Yeah. So what's going on?
So seeing that we're talking about Punisher tonight, this will be a Punisher-based question.
Oh, I'm not going to get this.
I was about to say, me neither. Probably. You know,
unless it's from
what's my track record? You know,
yeah, unless it's from the Netflix show.
Right.
Okay. And this question is absurd, which is why I love it so much. I need you guys to tell me which of these ridiculous moments never happened in Punisher lore.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And there are 5 options. Okay. Option A, he became Frankencastle. Option B, he rode a dragon. Option C, he punched a polar bear. Option D, he became a black man. Option E, he died to go to hell to fight Mephisto.
So let's just be clear.
Yeah, seriously.
4 of those did happen.
4
did happen.
4 of these absolutely happened.
Okay, so read them again.
Yeah.
Give us another.
Yeah.
Okay.
He became Frankencastle.
That's probably
I
happened.
was about to say, I believe that one. Yeah.
He rode a dragon.
See,
I kind of believe that one too.
I'm iffy on that one.
Well, I mean, you gotta remember, this could also be from like the What If series,
That's
and he
true.
did some weird shit there. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let me specify, these are not from What If series.
You dick. All right.
He punched a polar bear.
That probably happened.
Yeah.
They should have put that in the show.
He became a black man. And he went to hell to fight Mephisto.
That I could totally
I know
see
that one happened. I know.
So I'm like in
yeah.
a B or D. I'm thinking it's one of those two.
D as in he became a black man.
Yeah.
And then B being the whole Rider Dragon thing.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with B. I'm going to go with the dragon. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous that it would be on that list and it would be something that really happened.
Yeah.
You know?
It does. It has that tone to it. And the only moment I can think of is when he did some weird time traveling thing with Doom or some bullshit.
Right.
But I think that was another What If series, if I'm recalling it correctly. I don't know for certain. So it's like, well... I was thinking the same options though, B and D, because I believe every other one. Like, he totally punched a polar bear. For some legit reason, the polar bear went down with a punch. But, wait, you said you're going with B?
I'm going to go with B. If it's A, I'm going to be really angry because, like, I want that to be true. Frankencastle is
I know,
just
right?
too good.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. A was a little wonky, too. It makes sense, but... You know what? I'm gonna go with B as well. We're gonna do
The
it.
dragon. All right, so you both see option B.
Yeah.
Frankencastle did, in fact, ride a dragon.
Yeah, of course he did.
The answer is actually E. He actually never went to hell to fight Mephisto.
That's very shocking.
What? That was
I made
a good
that up.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very shocking.
yeah.
That also should happen.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered something like that happening though. Shit.
No. He did become Frankencastle.
Right.
During the storyline where Norman Osborn became the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. and called it Hammer, and he became the leader of the Avengers, he sent Dakin to go and murder Frank Castle once and for all. And he did. Dakin brutally murdered Frank Castle, chopped him into bits. And then
came back.
And then, can't make this up. And so then the League of Monsters came by and they took Frank Castle and they made him into Frankencastle, this giant hulking version of Frank Castle, because they needed him to help fight this foe who was killing all the monsters. And then this actually ties into when Frank Castle rode a dragon to fight other monsters.
So he rode the dragon as a monster?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Who wrote those?
Well, technically then, Frankencastle rode the dragon.
Oh,
and not Frank, not the Punisher, so we are technically
kind of right. Thank you. Well put together.
No dice. He did become a black man when he got jacked up by Jigsaw.
Yeah, I didn't think you would make that up.
He got messed up by Jigsaw, and then he got his face put back together by some low rent prostitute who used to be a plastic surgeon. Yeah, and not only
life went really south for that character.
Yeah, a drug addict prostitute. Well, they pretty much all are. But not only did Frank Castle become a black man, but somehow his hair also transitioned to black man hair. So that was a thing that happened.
That's kind of cool. Like, I'm kind of curious how that comic went.
Yeah. What I don't know is how he came back to being a white guy.
That's what I was also about to ask,
Yeah.
The end of the comic has him knocking on Michael Jackson's door.
What did you do? Tell me your secret and I'll let you live. Shit. Okay. But that's the comic question of the week, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and maybe some of you guys even got it right. Who knows?
The streak continues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Better luck next week. What's next week's topic? I don't think we
talked about Sunday yet? I don't think we have.
I don't think we have. Yeah. We need to decide this so I can think of another good question.
It's going to have Thor in it.
Yeah. There's like a 90% chance we're talking about Thor.
Son of a dick.
It's going to be a group review of all three. The Thor trilogy.
Oh my gosh.
And then we're going to do another podcast based on his side appearances and the Avengers movies.
Right, yeah.
And then what we expect of Thor in the future.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe a Thor based on the... I don't know.
Thor Infinity War
comedy
preview.
clip we saw.
Right.
Oh, there you go.
What will Thor do in Infinity War?
Yes.
For 2 hours.
Right. And then, of course, post Infinity War, what will Thor do now?
Exactly. Will he ever find an eye?
Oh, shit. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, like we said earlier, we are talking about the Netflix Punisher series, and this is a damn good series. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it when I watched it originally, and then watching it again with like renewed eyes. Fortunately, that was a really good thing to do because I think we all caught things that we probably didn't catch the first time around.
Very much so, right. Yeah.
Yeah. But so what I want to do here first is that obviously we're not going to talk about like the entire happenings of each and every episode, but I want to kind of round things out here. So what I really want to do is just kind of lead us into an opening and then kind of talk about where Frank is at mentally, and then kind of talk about these characters from there.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So the way that this show opens up is that he's in rural Alabama and he is chasing down some poor bikers. I'm just gonna assume that these bikers are guilty of something.
Yeah. They looked like they basically looked like side characters from Sons of Anarchy that didn't make the cut, and they were just gunned down.
Yeah. Gunned down and ran over. Yeah. As he recites that little poem to himself. Yeah. And he's on the streak, man. He's moving because right after this, we see that in Juarez, Mexico, there's this member of the cartel, like the last member of this Mexican cartel. He's at this club, looks like, and he's going in, he's celebrating with everybody, and they're like, yeah, the Punisher comes here, we'll kill him, and blah, blah, blah. And so he goes to a back room, he has this girl with him, things about to get hot and heavy, and then all the way in El Paso, Texas, Frank Castle's on a roof somewhere with a sniper, and he kills a man in Mexico from Texas. which is quite impressive.
Super
and the effect on that was really cool.
Yeah.
Where you hear the gunshot from Frank, and then you still see the guy, so you get the image of how far the bullet actually had to travel, and then his head just kind of explodes.
Friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
My thing is, how the hell do you even, like, get that damn good? Like, focus in with the scope so well. Like, oh, there's his car. Oh, I'm not actually looking at the side of a brick building or some other thing. Like, you're that zoomed in. Any movement, it's like, oh shit, now I'm like 100 feet off or something ridiculous, you know?
Like, I'd imagine you have to have a steady hand and be super patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, be really patient, because, like, you can't, even if you think you have the shot, you can't just do it then. You have to make sure that they're going to be there for a little bit, I guess.
Thus, also just empowering why Frank Castle is as good as he is, you know?
Yeah. And so then after this, it goes to another scene. We're in the JFK, I think, the JFK airport in New York City. And there's
poor bastard.
there's a guy, Mickey O'Hare. He's the last surviving member of, like, the Irish mob from Daredevil season 2. So this is like the one guy from Daredevil season 2 that Punisher didn't get to kill, though he wanted to kill. This guy has a plane ticket back to Dublin. Frank Castle comes inside the bathroom stall, finds the man, gives him the bathroom stall, strangles him to death. Homosexual rants be damned. He doesn't care. There were like two guys out there who heard rumblings in the stall and assumed that, oh man, these guys are... Yeah. But that did not stop Frank at all. And now what was really interesting about this scene, and then after this I'm gonna give it over to you guys here to tell me about where you think Frank sat here in this state. But what's really interesting in this scene, though, is that when he walks into the stall, he has him like a jacket and a hoodie, and the hoodie's unzipped with the Punisher logo showing. And Mickey O'Hare sees that and, of course, shits his pants. Well, he's in the bathroom, so that's probably for the best. But when he walks out, he zips it up again. And I think that really says a lot about Frank Castle and about what that means to him. What do you guys think is still driving Frank Castle, and what do you think to him the meaning of the Punisher symbol is?
I think it. I think we have to bring up Batman every podcast.
Oh yeah.
I think there is a certain degree where it's sort of like the bat to Batman, is that he does use it as a symbol to inspire fear. Maybe I don't think the Punisher really inspires hope a whole lot, like the bat signal can do. But I do think it is that. I do think there's an element of fear. He uses that skull to strike fear into his enemies. They know when they see that it's over with.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last episode, we get a good definition of it from the character David, talking about it was the memento mori. Talking about how it was the signal to the old Roman generals that, hey, you might be retired, but you're gonna die one day, so don't get cocky. So I think... at the same time, that was a reminder to Frank that not only is he human, thus capable of erring, but also the same thing, where it's like, hey, guess what? You might be a cocky criminal or some lowlife who thinks he got away with it, but I'm here to tell you didn't, and you're gonna die.
Right.
You know, the same memento there. And I think the act of him zipping it up was... honestly, I didn't think that part itself was symbolic. I think the heavy part of that came blatantly so just after, whenever we see him tossing this Kevlar vest into the damn fire, which, can you burn Kevlar, was my question. I don't know. I've never tried.
Probably be all the kind of fabric around it, because I think it's like some sort of mesh, So,
right,
yeah. That's true. But the Punisher would definitely burn off of it, so.
Exactly, the white paint would be gone. But I think that part is definitely... symbolic, that itself, the action showing Frank's mentality, showing that it's like, okay, I finished, my Christmas lists, my main baddies I was hunting down, they're gone.
Yeah.
So the memento was, quote unquote, not needed right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he never intended to become this character, this hero.
Right,
He never intended to do that.
Hero.
Yeah, well, and I put quotes up there.
Right, he did air quote, yeah.
I did air quote. He never intended for the Punisher to become a character. He used that symbol, as a means to an end. It was I'm going to get revenge for the people that cost me everything. And then that was it for him. Like, it was a mission, and he completed it. I mean, and that's how, he lived his life in the military.
Yeah,
like,
soldier mentality, yeah.
Exactly. That was his mission. He had completed it. He no longer needed the skull.
Yeah. Really good point. Really good point. I was talking to both of you guys on different occasions here, and I'm going to sell this also to the listeners as well. The graphic novel, The Punisher Max, written by Garth Ennis, is probably the greatest Punisher graphic novel ever written. And in this, Garth Ennis, he changes a lot of things for the better. One thing that he really puts emphasis on is the skull itself. In this meeting, he has that, as was already discussed by both Caleb and Kevin. Like, it is a meaning of fear, but it's also used to be a target as well. So that when bad guys see it, they freak out, and then they shoot the skull, which is armored, instead of shooting at Frank's bare head. Everything Frank does, pretty much everything he does serve a purpose. One thing about Frank that I also really like is his unpredictability, because it's like he only has two modes. He either is calm and reserved, or he's flipping the fuck out. Like,
I remember I joked with you the other day about this. Caleb, I'm going to tell you now. You can tell how gruesome and violent and awesome the death is going to be by how loud John Bernthal was allowed to go with Frank. Because if it was the low, ooh, then they're just going to get shot,
Right.
But if it got up an octave or two, like, ooh, ooh, then like eyeballs were popping and crazy shit,
The more number of yells and how loud the yells are.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when you know he was just leveling up to rage the freak out. Yeah.
oh man. And so really, like, the next part here of this story is we see Frank, and he's now he's working in construction. Does it say how long he's been here?
I can't remember. It was like some years.
I'd imagine it'd be like 6 months is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, I don't think
it was.
I didn't make a note on that.
Yeah. But anyways, he's been here long enough to kind of establish himself.
Right. Especially long enough to people to kind of forget and let his news fall back.
Yeah. He's now Pete Castiglione, and it's been enough time for him to grow a beard. So it's been an appropriate amount of time. And
so a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That was a really thick beard. That's
true. That was like lumberjack level beard. Yeah. Wizard level almost. Yeah.
But while he's here, he's just hacking with this wall, this brick wall. Maybe it is symbolic now that I said it out loud, but he's really trying to tear down this brick wall. And he goes home at night and he has nightmares. And it seems to be like the same nightmare he has repeatedly. Where do you guys think Frank is at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's
empty.
Yeah, he's in a bad spot, and I think this is probably a good time to mention this. I feel like with Frank and this series, I think you really had to have seen Daredevil season 2 to get the whole impact of it,
right?
Because you see him here, you can tell he's empty, you can tell that he's frustrated and everything, but you don't really get. There's a quote I'm going to bring up from later on that I'll reference back to this, but you don't really get the full image of where he's at as a person and like his mindset on why the Punisher even came about without seeing Daredevil season 2. So I think that is important. If you never watched any of it, you definitely want to check out Daredevil season 2 before you watch Punisher to get the full picture.
Oh yeah,
true.
Oh, also, I forgot to say this earlier. I just assumed that you guys already knew this, but spoiler alert: we're going to be spoiling everything here.
Yeah. What? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, there's some angry listener out there who's just angry. Right?
If you are, for some reason, that listener, we kind of apologize.
And it's at that point it turns out the main villain was just a paid actor the whole time.
The entire time.
that doesn't happen.
Don't get me started on
Poor Ben Kingsley. Damn.
Freaking Trevor.
That's like the perfect name for him. I'm sorry. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point though about Daredevil season 2 real quick, because Daredevil season 2 did tell us a lot about Frank's about his backstory and kind of why this psychotic man does what he does. It also, kind of gave us more about this character known as the Blacksmith, who Frank is after the entire time. Then he finally gets him. Now, I'm glad that both of you guys are here, because I need you guys to keep me straight here on this part in particular, because
you're wrong.
Probably, yeah. I'll accept that. Because, like, in my mind right now, there's a lot of things swirling around. I have two different origins from the comics swirling around in my head, along with the origin from Daredevil season 2, along with the renewed origin in the Punisher TV series. Okay, so there's about 4 different origins running through my mind right now, and I'm probably going to use parts of all of them to tell this convoluted tale about how when he fought in the Vietnam-Afghanistan war, he
someone out there just perked up. Wait a minute.
But yeah, so essentially though, the facts that do remain constant is that this man fought in the war, came home from that war, and eventually took his family to Central Park, and his family and himself actually get gunned down while in Central Park. Now, as far as like the who's and the whys, that changes from origin to origin.
Right. But I was about to say, in one of them, the Thomas Jane movie origin, he wasn't even military. He was FBI.
Yeah.
So
he was FBI in Puerto Rico, and Howard Saint's son got killed in the process. Howard Saint, or Vincent Saint, was
right.
What's his name? The actor.
Yeah.
The actor. Freaking Pulp Fiction guy.
Yeah, John Travolta.
John Travolta.
On,
yeah. I was trying to get you to think of his name. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, but anyways, that we don't really need to mention that one here. That was an interesting movie for the time, but no.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying something.
Yeah. So the origin, though, is as far as the TV show goes, was that at first it was supposed to be, or it was thought to just be like an unfortunate turn of events done by gang members, which is why Frank goes on this rant, on this rage to kill all these gang members. The Irish mob and all these other gangs. That's why he's eliminating them, why he wipes them all out. But then, of course, over the course of season 2, it's revealed that it was actually revealed that it was someone else behind it. It was a planned hit that it was a sting operation to draw out this drug smuggler known as the Blacksmith, and that the Blacksmith was who they were really after. Unfortunately, Frank was there, his family was there, casualties. And Frank finally gets hold of the Blacksmith, who was actually one of his old sergeants or colonels that he served under in the military.
It sounded like he was one of the 4 big leaders that he had to follow.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Something like that.
Yeah. What's his name here? The character's name.
Yeah. He was in Punisher as well.
Yeah, he was in Punisher as well. Schoonover? Schoonover. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh.
I got he's in here somewhere.
The full IMDb list. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Of course he won't be on here. Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, because he only had like one scene in the Punisher.
Yeah.
But he was there in the flashback. Yeah. But so that's kind of his origin here. One thing also interesting about Frank Castle is that it seems like no matter who he kills, it doesn't help him. He still feels just as empty as he always did. Just moving on here, though. The next thing we see here, though, is Frank. He eventually gets around to murdering all these men that he works with in the construction site. If you guys can tell, there's a lot of murder here going on by Frank Castle in this series. What do you think that this does to the mentality of Frank when he's in this position?
Oh my gosh. I actually thought about this on the way over here. The light bulb freaking turned back on. Like before, he was just on these energy efficient little pro-green light bulbs where it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm just doing this mundane, getting through life, reliving my pain over and over every night. But then these people, they just couldn't stop. And then all of a sudden, turned out they were criminals. And then all of a sudden, he caught them in the act of being criminals, about to also murder. So it's like, all right, Frank Castle's gone again. Here's the Punisher. And the thing I loved about that scene, because the first time I watched it. I have to confess, I was such a freaking nerd about it. I live texted Q the entire time, just like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm about to lose my shit. This is so amazing. Yeah. I'm breaking my kitchen chair right now. Yeah.
I may have done the same thing. What I really love about that first episode is it could play out like it could be a short Punisher film. I mean, that first episode really could, because that plot, while they introduce you to all these other characters that we'll get into, that plot with the construction workers is kind of all through it, and it really tells you everything you need to know about Frank's character. Because while he does brutally murder people, he wasn't going to stand by and like let the only nice guy, on the construction site, because the guy's trying to. We got his name here somewhere.
Yeah, what was his name?
Which one? The bald guy?
No, the kid that Frank helps out.
The good one, relatively.
Yeah, the one who wants to fit in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically he's just looking for essentially somebody to sort of be his friend there at the construction site. And Frank's like, I'm not that guy. So then he goes and gets in with these really bad guys that actually do work there. And he's just trying to impress him. He's buying him drinks and stuff like that. And then they get him involved in some shit. Of course.
Yeah.
And,
some deep shit. Yeah.
I loved how in the midst of all that, they were still able to slowly bring to the surface that, oh, hey, this isn't, the construction yard gimp. This is actually like a badass ex-Marine. And you see that slowly in the realization of, and one scene in particular, the bald guy, I don't remember his name for crap, nor do I care. But you just see, like, all of a sudden, it's like his buddy's injured. Hey, you're the Marine. Come, first aid him or whatever. You're right. As if it's that easy. And then he's just like, oh. So this guy who just overheard my plot, who I just insulted, actually turned out to also be a badass. So it's like kind of an ominous background threat, I felt like, also just something that we could appreciate as an audience.
Yeah. It was one thing here real quick. And excuse me for like the non-relevance that this has, but it really irked me both times when I watched the scene where this kid goes and he goes, "Yeah, I bought the first round," and then ends up paying for all the drinks.
Yeah, no, that pissed me off when I saw that. $200 something.
Yeah, no, it was like $317.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's messed up.
And this kid still doesn't. There's no red flags yet that these guys.
Yeah, they're assholes.
They do not have your best intentions even on their radar. I also want to point out that I waited that entire episode to see Frank kill somebody with the sledgehammer. From the opening scene where he's got it, you're like, I hope he kills someone with that sledgehammer.
And then he ends up killing almost everybody with that sledgehammer.
Even though they have guns. But here's the thing I loved the most about his rage moment. Not the awesome, appropriately strange yet heavy song they use in the background. Not the awesome tone and just way John carried the character. But also how it was so well... I'm going to say just written here in general. Choreographed, you can argue, but whatever. How it's like all of a sudden, this first time he's raging out and the Punisher finally comes back to the surface months later, he's killing these people not just well, but perfectly. There's no evidence. There's no sign that he did it because they drop in the concrete. The hell with them. They're going to be part of the freaking foundation now or whatever, And then he proceeds to go to this gang leader's hideout for a freaking poker night. And there's no evidence there. He uses the guy's own arm, gun in hand, to shoot himself in the head. So it's like, Frank didn't do anything, but he totally did everything. Right. There's no evidence he did anything, except, of course, for the whole gate technology, which we're about to go into, of course, sure. But that aside, it was the perfect rampage for him to come out and be the Punisher again for.
Yeah.
Plus, that song, I really like. The first time I heard it, I was just kind of like, ooh, this is a weird song. Like, okay, this isn't in my iPod anywhere. But, I don't know, it's kind of like oh shit, this is good workout music now. Yeah. Just for this one scene.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the way he saves the guy, too. It's in very Frank Castle fashion. He just puts, like, the money that they had in the bag, and it's like, leave town.
Yeah, leave town. That was a super great opening. Like, an extremely intense episode. Of course, episode 1 ends with this guy like looking ominously at Frank and with kind of like a smirk on his face, and that's kind of where episode 1 ends. But there's a lot of good shit that happens in episode 1. We see Frank and where he's at right now in life, and we see this quiet, somber man who What's up?
No.
Yeah.
Say what you're about to say.
No, I was gonna say, and like it really brings to mind like the old cliche of you never mess with the quiet person.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And one more thing, I both loved and want to question. I loved how the entire time we just see him sledgehammering away. I thought that itself was a very like heavy way to symbolically reference like the character and his issues and things like that. Like, it was easy for him to keep motivating himself to sledge his hammer through bruised hands and everything for this busted freaking wall, or all the walls he had to bust apparently, because that was his only job on the site. And that's kind of was my question at the same time. Like, why the hell aren't you in charge of anything else? You're just the deconstruction crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't you guys have a machine that can
Exactly.
do this?
Like, look at the jackhammer.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, it's gotta be this way.
Yeah.
And one thing I noted too about this first episode is we actually get introduced to a lot of characters in this first episode. It's very well directed. So other than Agent Orange and also Billy Russo, we get pretty much introduced to the entire rest of the main cast here.
Oh yeah.
And I got some notes on them. We see Kurt's recovery group. Frank goes to visit that, so we see he doesn't go in to the recovery group. He just kind of chills on the outside and listens to people tell their stories and interact and everything. And we find out that it's ran by Kurt, which we know at this point that he's just a old war buddy of Frank's. And then we also get introduced to Lewis, who's the younger guy that has PTSD, very clear PTSD. And then O'Connor, who at this point in time we're led to believe is just sort of like
a Vietnam War vet, and
a really angry old guy
who killed 13 and I quote gooks with their own grenade. Yeah, that's what he says he did.
Yeah, you get some pretty bad overtones from O'Connor about his general character.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought those people up because these are all very prominent characters here. So yeah, I mean, first of all, start off with Curtis. Yeah, Curtis has this recovery group, like you said. Now, it's a really cool recovery group that he has here because he's trying his best to help these guys out. And like you said, also though, like the two standouts from the group are obviously O'Connor and Lewis. And at this point, I didn't know what to make of either character, especially Lewis. I didn't know what to really make of him at this point yet, other than the fact that, like you say, he's got some things to work through. He's got some issues, Kevin.
Lewis, I know, right? Yeah. You need to stop him from bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
But no, Lewis.
Think he needs some counseling. To help his ass from bouncing off the walls and he'd be down some.
Please tell us you get the reference, people. But no, Lewis, when I first saw him, I have to admit, so you guys knew the ROTC program in high schools and whatnot, yeah? He looked like that kid that was way too serious about it,
Right.
Like there's always one in the group. Yeah.
Right.
And that's what he kind of just came off to me as. Eventually, as we see he's getting more screen time, it's like, oh, never mind, he's actually going to be not just a cool character, but also super important. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, shit.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that, of course.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, like, we can actually go ahead and get it to announce. And this is like going to be a non-traditional breakdown of the series.
Cool.
And also, since kind of Lewis and O'Connor have like their own little story arc together almost.
Right. And on that note, he really could have been that guy because it came across to me too as like he's this guy that maybe got into ROTC and took it way too seriously and like came to school in his in his gear and everything.
Yeah.
But then I think he got actually into the service and it messed him up. I think he got over there and the reality of it is he's not playing toy soldier anymore and he comes home and he's messed up. I mean that's kind of the opinion I got.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, we even see that, paraphernalia in his room where it's like all the military posters on the wall even. It's like, dude, how, fanatic were you about this,
And, the thing about Lewis, though, is he is like talking about this character because, it's easy to look at this character and obviously label him a villain because he does some very terrible shit. However, the nature of this character is kind of a sensitive one because, I mean, there's a lot of people out there in this country that have different types of PTSD, and some people may suffer from a type that's a little similar to Lewis's. And that's kind of the sad reality that we live in here in this country. But the thing about Lewis, though, is that he's looking for answers and he's looking for kind of like Frank. He's kind of like a parallel to Frank because he's also looking for a purpose as well.
Right.
And because at this point, so was Frank up until Microchip enters the scene. But Lewis is also looking for a purpose because now that he's out of the service, like he doesn't know what to do with himself. He doesn't feel appreciated. He doesn't feel like he's fulfilled. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He starts doing a lot of crazy shit because of it. And also, like, his nightmares obviously have got to be up there with Frank's in terms of like how terrifying they are. Because there's even a time when he wakes up and he pops a shot at his dad. Luckily, he misses. Yeah. I can't imagine, like, as like if you're a father, how you feel about your son being in this kind of condition and not being able to help. Yeah. You know.
And I had this written down about Lewis here is that he's malleable. Like he can be influenced easily by the world around him.
Good point.
And that's how he gets tied in with O'Connor. Is his lack of purpose and his search for it is what really makes him dangerous. Because then O'Connor, who's this guy that's angry about the world, feels like the country's kind of left him behind, abandoned him, whatever. He's a very angry guy, and so he's able to influence Lewis and set him on this path to where he takes that purpose and he obviously focuses it into some very dangerous and not good outcomes.
So obviously we find out I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit here and I'm gonna come back to where we're at now, but obviously we find out that O'Connor is full of shit. O'Connor, he actually didn't really serve in Vietnam during like the heat of Vietnam.
No, he was in Texas.
And he didn't really do a whole lot of shit at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, like he did enlist.
He was a soldier.
He was a soldier, but as far as like seeing action and everything he claims and like the Silver Star and all that, the Silver Heart, whatever it was, Silver Star, Silver Heart, Star, yeah. Which is weird because he pulled it off his pocket and it was gold, but I just happened to notice that. Like, I don't know if is it supposed to be gold and they call it silver. Anyways, all that was made up, not true at all. And when Lewis finds that out, he kind of snaps. But before we get there, though, you guys remember the scene, obviously, where they're outside the courthouse.
Oh, gosh.
Handing out the flyers.
Handing out the flyers.
I mean, Lewis knew his shit.
Lewis knew everything. My question is, did Lewis reach for that cop's gun?
No.
Okay.
That was the cop just...
Thought so, because I stopped and I rewind, and I stopped and rewind. It's like I didn't see.
No. Yeah. It didn't even show his hands.
It didn't show his hands.
Like he was sitting there
because I was even looking for just emotion, even, but I didn't catch any of that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, he's completely framed.
Just wanted to be sure. Yeah.
I want to ask her a question real quick. Not to detract us, but just for my clarification. Lewis is not a comic book character. Like, he wasn't pulled from that, correct?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to verify. This was something totally awesome and made for the purpose of the show. Yeah,
actually, several characters were like Madani. She was made up. Right. Sam Stein.
I knew Madani was made up.
Yeah. But yeah.
Cool.
So several characters were. But I think that cop falsely accusing him really set him up to kind of become. It pushes him even more to become the person who he becomes. You know. But yeah, once again, we see Curtis, because Curtis is really tied up in this story arc too with Lewis. We see Curtis try to come along and help him out and try to talk some sense into him. In the end, though, I asked myself this question during both watch throughs: was it a good idea for him to tell Lewis about O'Connor, like about who he really was?
Well, he didn't know, I don't think, about the scene at the courthouse, which is so pivotal because that's when you start to see through the cracks in O'Connor's character. Because as soon as there's any kind of confrontation with the cop, O'Connor completely ditches Lewis. So you don't see them planning to go to the courthouse, but you can entirely see O'Connor coming up with the whole plan, being like, we should go hand out, Lewis probably didn't even know about the court case.
Like, he's spinning the web, but then, oh shit, stuff's getting hairy.
Yeah, Lewis is his pawn, and then as soon as like it's gonna go south, O'Connor's like, well, I'm out of here, and he just leaves him high and dry. So I don't know if it was a great idea for Curtis to tell him.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. You can't blame Curtis, in my opinion, just because it's like he didn't foresee that outcome.
And he made his own decisions.
But
But he did at this point know that there was some serious shit going wrong with Lewis.
Right. I mean, I was about to say, this is after the pit in the backyard. This
is after the trench, which, damn, like, how do you do that in that amount of time?
You did it that well.
Yeah, that
and how is the dad cool with it? Like, oh, my son's obviously been doing this for hours. I guess I'll just let him finish.
Well, if you're the dad, what do you do? Because the dad doesn't know what to do at this point.
True. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. And
stop digging my yard?
This is also after
the anvil.
He goes to try to get the job at Anvil.
Yeah.
And then it's when he confronts Curtis about it. So he goes to try to get the job with a military contractor to kind of go back into the field in the private sector. And Curtis talks to Billy Russo, who will definitely spend some time
right, yeah.
Who is the owner, CEO, operator. I don't know if we find out his exact title, but he's like the owner. He's the head guy.
He's Anvil Incorporated.
Yeah. Anvil. He is Anvil. And so he goes and talks to Billy Russo, who that he has a history with, and he basically says, this kid does not need to be in the field. He tells him about the foxhole in his yard, and he says, look, I'm looking out for your best interest. Don't hire this kid. So Lewis then goes to confront Curtis about it, and that's when Curtis reveals to him about O'Connor being a fraud. So he was already in sort of a really tough spot. You could tell he was frustrated.
Right.
He felt like everyone was against him.
Yeah.
In this scenario, you kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You really do.
Because you could see being in that scenario.
Right.
I think most people have been in a scenario where somebody was looking out for your best interest and you weren't.
Yeah.
But you didn't understand that at the time.
You didn't get it.
Right. And you can definitely sympathize with his character at this point.
Yeah. And that's really true. Yeah. Because like his dad doesn't understand what he's gone through. He feels that Curtis. Yeah. He feels that Curtis is being like a friend to his face by stabbing him in the back. And he feels like O'Connor at this point now, like the last person who he thought he could trust found out it's just a dirty liar. I mean, so I think at this point he's really just kind of had it. Like cops who he thought he could trust, obviously just threw him under the bus and arrested him for no reason, basically.
So basically, we just see the perfect collision of coincidences all around aboard Curtis, thus creating the Punisher's Unabomber.
Basically, yeah. He goes off the deep end. Well, he goes off the deep end after his last encounter with O'Connor.
Right.
So he goes over to confront O'Connor,
which makes sense because he killed the man in his own house.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys think he went to O'Connor's home with the intent to kill him?
Yes and no, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if he does because there's a few details there. He definitely goes there to confront him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know if he intended to kill him. I feel like maybe if O'Connor had sort of fessed up to it, but when he confronts him about it, he's got him dead to rights. He asks him the name of the airfield where he claimed to be stationed, and of course he doesn't know. And then he's like, oh, well, I forgot it or whatever. And he's like, you look up my records? Well, that's on the internet. That's all fake news or whatever.
Right.
He just constantly, he's still trying to spin the narrative. And actually, O'Connor attacks him first.
That's true.
O'Connor
comes with the Kabar.
O'Connor's got the knife. It's not. It's not like Lewis brought the knife there to kill him. O'Connor attacks him. That's a good point. Yeah. He's in a really bad spot. And O'Connor attacks him first because he's like, get out of my house or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he went there with the intention to kill him. Maybe he wanted to beat his ass or something like that.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because it's like, okay, this kid's already pretty messed up in the head. Sure, he has his actual conscious thoughts, but subconsciously there's that layer there that's like really screwing around with him right now too. So who knows what that was thinking. Like, this guy needs to be punished for... I didn't mean for that to come out that way, but it did. Be punished perhaps for, lying to me and leaving and ditching me for this type of thing. Or that's kind of what I was feeling. Obviously, though, you're correct. He didn't swing first. O'Connor came with that paranoid knife swing going at him. And, of course, our boy, freaking Curtis took him down easily.
Lewis. Yeah.
No, you're right, Lewis. Excuse me.
And, yeah, Lewis, it's like, I see Curtis doing it now.
I know, right? Beats him with his own leg.
Yeah, Curtis like, I'm tired of you fucking up my group.
Stop interrupting me.
No, but so Lewis, when he ends up stabbing O'Connor, though, like, you can see the look of shock on his own face. And then he's like, I guess something in him said that felt kind of good, or this is the right thing to do, because then he just goes to town, you know?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he definitely didn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's the thing, like this really does remind me, and I guess you're right, Caleb, like I can't go a podcast without mentioning Batman. This does remind me of like The Dark Knight, when Joker says, you know, madness is like gravity, all it takes is a little push. And like I feel like that's all it took for someone in Lewis's condition to snap. Because
just one bad.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. So I want to put a pause right now on our boy Lewis and also Curtis, and kind of come over back to more the mainstream storyline. Talk about some of these other characters for a second.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about Microchip here. Our boy Micro.
First off, in the show, they never even put Microchip together. He's always just Micro. Yeah. Which I thought was interesting.
Well, he's also not extremely obese either.
No, he's not.
He's the opposite of that.
He's not at all his comic book version, which was interesting.
Not from a physical aspect.
Now, I can't recall on the tape, because of course the original hint towards the character is at the end of Daredevil season 2, and it's the CD. Did it say Microchip on the CD?
It says Micro.
It just says Micro.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't recall that, because I didn't go back through Daredevil season 2.
Yeah, I went back through a couple episodes of that, really for the blacksmith stuff. But
which was heavy.
Oh yeah, that was heavy. But yeah, so Microchip. Micro. Yeah,
you good. We know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I even wrote it down like micro.
Right.
Parentheses. Chip.
Yeah. David Lieberman. One thing that I really like about this character and his relationship with Frank is that they do a really good job of mirroring their relationship in the comic books. Like I always appreciate stuff like that, because it's kind of complex, you know. Like sometimes they fight like an old married couple, which is kind of funny, and other times, like, you know, you feel like they really do want to kill each other, and other times they're on it, and when they're on it, like they're pretty unstoppable. What you thinking?
My favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes,
the sandwich?
It's this damn sandwich. Like he's just like mixing up the tuna or whatever the hell it was, the MRE,
the tuna pouch, and gives it to Frank.
And then all of a sudden he's just like, I'm doing this huge sandwich, much bigger than like Eben's mouth, or Eben, however you want to say his name, the actor's name, whatever. And he's just like, where'd you get that? I loved that so much.
That was a great scene.
It was.
I really love their relationship too, because when I first thought about him having a sidekick, I'm not really well versed in Punisher comics, but I was like, so I read up on him a little bit, and I was like, how is this version of Frank gonna have a sidekick? He doesn't trust anything, and they really went in on that. They didn't make it even remotely unbelievable.
No,
Frank does not trust this guy at all.
No,
he tries to kill him.
Yeah,
he thinks this guy is trying to kill him.
Right.
Like Frank ties him to a chair naked.
Yeah,
he doesn't however long.
Yeah.
He looks up his family. Yeah,
he tortures him. He goes to visit his family. I mean, Frank goes all out on this guy.
It got dark.
Yeah. And to be honest, though, I mean, I feel that Micro really should have known, like, his approach was all wrong, to quote Christopher Walken.
I mean, he was smart, but he was just not smart enough to calculate what the hell was about to happen.
Well, like, I feel like he's been tracking Frank for all this time, right?
Yeah.
I feel like he should have known, like, Frank is unstable. Like, the way that I'm going about contacting him is not the way to go to gain this man's trust.
Oh, so you think he should have chose a different format altogether? Not the creepy phone call in the diner.
Yeah.
Not the cool flashlight trick.
Right. Not the ominous calls and all that weird stuff. Like, I think that, because, I mean, to us viewers, that comes off as like, oh, he's going to be a villain.
So what approach would you guys have used?
Well, the approach he uses, the thing about it that I noted is, a lot of it is kind of him keeping his distance from Frank at the beginning.
Yeah.
He knows how dangerous Frank is.
Probably
he does
scared.
not want Frank to kill him.
Yeah.
So, if he had just walked into the diner and
hey,
sat
Frank.
hey, Frank. Man, so I know who killed your family, and we should go get him.
Yeah.
Let's team up together.
That's a great way to get added to that building foundation.
Yeah.
I know, right?
First episode.
Well, it's funny because even with that first phone call, Frank says, "Yeah, okay, how about you come on over and we have a cup of coffee and we talk this thing out."
That reminds me.
Yeah.
I've never heard coffee advertised so damn much as I have this whole series. Like every episode, you want some coffee? Yeah, I'll have some coffee. Every character has something on coffee.
Now,
And it's really funny if you reference it back to Luke Cage.
yeah.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Oh shit.
Don't worry, we'll get you something on the way. It's not going to be the same.
Oh man. But just real quick though, while we're on that topic, I thought about this while watching Defenders back when it came out. Like, man, it would have been really cool to see Punisher in this show. I wonder why they didn't want to add him to it. But now seeing the Punisher TV show, it's like, there's no way that tonally speaking, Frank Castle could coexist with all of these personalities. It just wouldn't happen.
Well, I think maybe he could in the future.
Maybe
but
so.
That's what I'm hoping for too.
Yeah.
At this point in time, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He's withdrawn from the world.
Mm-hmm.
He does not trust anybody. I mean, he nearly killed Matt multiple times.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was about
Damn
to say
near
something
did
similar
in
to
the
that.
first episode of season 2.
Right.
He shot him in the face.
Yeah.
The first time he shows up, he shoots
Right.
Daredevil in the face.
Yeah, you're right about that. I was just about to add on that. I mean, it obviously caused a lot of friction. Yeah. I mean, I remember one scene in particular where they're both trying to fight to get out or something. Punisher was just being tortured or something.
That was the excellent scene. Punisher trying to kill people and Daredevil was trying to fight and stop Punisher.
Exactly, and he's just like,
people.
"Come on, man!" You
Yeah.
know, yeah. And you're right. However, I agree. I would love to see him in the future be like a Defenders tag along or like the fifth member or some cool shit like that. However they're gonna do it, I want them to kind of work with it a little.
Yeah.
You know,
They're going to be careful because they got to let Frank be Frank. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, I mean, I could really see like the Defenders, maybe the way they introduce them, like the Defenders get surrounded by like a ton of bad guys or something, and then Frank's just like off the side with like a saw machine gun or something, and like they're cornered or whatever, and they're like, "No, we brought back up two," and then it's just the Punisher. That's it.
I'm already imagining part of it now. I could just imagine Danny Rand just being like super angry at Frank all the time, just like they don't get along.
Oh,
at
they
all.
wouldn't, definitely not.
No.
I think Luke is like the only person that Frank would maybe identify with because
Right.
he's a man of few words.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Maybe
somebody,
Jessica.
person of integrity.
Maybe.
The pessimism is definitely
They
there.
drink together a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that Jessica also, like as far as like the main four Defenders go, I think that she doesn't mind killing the least, in comparison to the other ones.
I'm just imagining a funny scene now where all of a sudden, like, Luke and Frank are in some fight scene together, and all of a sudden, Frank is trying to shoot someone real quick, and Luke is just like, doosh, and blocks the bullet, and Frank all of a sudden is just like...
Yeah.
Like, his entire psyche is just
Right.
like, what just happened?
Yeah, well, I can see Frank also acquiring some of those Judas bullets.
Oh,
That were made by Justin Hammer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I could also immediately see, Frank doing his typical, like, we're bare bones down to business, and I can just see Kristen Ritter being like, "Who brought this hard ass?"
I know, right? Yeah. That's true.
He's worse than Matt.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, back to Micro though. So
we got off subject there.
Yeah.
Hard.
Way off.
I feel like our listeners should be way used to this by now. So.
We whiplash.
Did you make a Whiplash reference?
I accidentally did.
Oh,
but
okay. I wasn't sure that was
considering
on
we just talked
purpose.
about Justin Hammer too.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the? I'm joking.
No.
Let's go.
Yeah, but Micro though, so his whole thing is that he finds out information about the CIA that they've been doing some really top secret illegal bullshit, and
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. Shit, they'll listen to us right now.
I know, right?
But
and we're off the air.
but he gets seemingly killed because of it, because of what he knows. And my thing is though, so he gets shot. And fortunately, he has his cell phone there protecting him. He right in front of his wife. She's there to see it too. And these CIA agents, he gets shot. He falls off of like this bridge down to a water area. He's never found. Do they look for him?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. You don't really see a whole lot of the rest of that scene. It's kind of like we got to kind of get into Carson Wolf, but you kind of wonder, as much as they want this guy to disappear, are they going to just shoot him and let him fall in the water? And then, like, even if it was just like normal cops doing that, it's now a crime scene. The body's got to be recovered. I mean, so there's a little bit of a plot hole there.
Right. Yeah, there's a little bit.
The thing that actually continues that problem, they had a funeral. So if they didn't do the search, or at least if we didn't see the search, did they find anything? And if they found it, what the hell did they bury?
Well, a lot of times in situations like that, like they bury like mementos and things like that.
Sure, but then it's like, okay, I mean, like, oh, I'm sorry, you never found my husband's body? What? We're just gonna bury his mementos?
Well, I mean, like, you gotta remember, in this universe, like, if you don't find the body, it's all good. They didn't find Frank's body. Yeah, he's dead, though.
True. This isn't the first time we've had that.
Yeah.
Or Matt's.
Or Matt's, yeah. Well, Matt's dead. He's got buried down there. We didn't find the body, though. So, yeah. But yeah, so Micro, he goes into hiding, basically. And kudos to this man, because I thought about this, too. Like, I wonder how he got those cameras set up in his house. And then I just imagine him waiting out for like his family to leave, and then this man sneaking into his own house, setting up camera equipment, and then quickly leaving. Like, I can actually see that totally being the thing that he did.
I actually kind of imagine that being comical. Just like, where am I going to put the camera? Oh, I'm going to put it in my eyes, in the picture.
Right. Yeah. Make it like the Scooby-Doo effect where like every time they move like that.
One amazing thing that I think that it was important to mention in this whole sort of Micro and Frank interaction with each other is they really touch on the fact that Frank is not just this grunt type character. As a matter of fact, I believe later in the show, Agent Orange actually says something to him like, "You're just a grunt," or whatever. He's really not, because Micro is tracking him using gait recognition software, which basically means he was tracking Frank's exact walk, his mannerisms, that sort of thing, facial recognition. So Frank is smart enough to realize this, that he's tracking him with the cameras, and he actually like starts to walk with a limp, and he covers his face up, all that. He changes his look. So Frank really does understand, in a street sense. He has a very deep understanding of things like this. So it shows another layer to his character. He's not just, he's not like the most technologically savvy guy on the planet either.
Right.
But he, when it comes to like survival and like tracking or anything like that, he's very knowledgeable. He understands the technology that's used to do it.
I mean, that's the thing. We see, like, especially if you know how to find it when you're looking for it, we definitely see those hidden, calculated moments in Frank's personality and in his actions, Like I was saying earlier about the whole killing on the construction crew. Like, he made it look like he didn't do anything there, that these guys are just missing. They all just, left town or something. But really, they're buried, or they shot themselves with a broken arm, Yeah. He didn't touch the gun. He didn't leave the bodies around to be found. So he definitely has exactly that calculated, strategic side to him.
Yeah.
Which is how he finds Micro's basic operations to begin with.
Which was awesome.
He does the whole scene where he lures him out, and he has Kurt tell him.
That was great.
It was
for hours.
20
minutes, go here.
20 minutes.
I gotta get gas!
Yeah. What was he driving, like a 03 Impala or something like that?
And they made fun of it too. He's not in a car chase for that.
And so Kurt tells him, hey, Frank doesn't want to be found, whatever. But the whole idea is Frank sneaks into the trunk. He's like, this guy's going to take me right back to his headquarters.
Right.
I'm going to find out who he is, what he knows, everything.
Is that how he got in the base? He snuck in the trunk?
Yeah. So
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
While he's talking to Kurt, and Kurt's like, no, Frank's got you in his crosshairs right now, which is something Frank would do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He's like, Frank's got you in his crosshairs right now. He doesn't want to be found.
Right.
If you visit him again, he's going to go visit your family.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then, while they're having that conversation, Frank sneaks into the trunk, and Micro takes him right back to Micro HQ.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Frank's just right there. He's like, I got you. I got all your computers. I got all your shit.
Now I'm going to zip tie you butt naked to a chair.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, these two have such a great back and forth.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning. Right. Because Micro gets him back eventually when he's tied up naked to the chair.
And that was super well done, too, on Micro's part.
Yeah.
I think Frank underestimates him a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he totally did. can I ask something real quick? What the hell did he stab Frank with? Was that just a giant chunk of lead?
That's what it looked like. But
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was wondering because like that immobilized him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was just kind of like, oh shit, what? Did he get like some poisoned pin or something? I don't know. It just looked like lead to me though. So
yeah, to be honest, I'm not really clear either on that.
And I'm not sure how the hell you pierce the skin with that. Because think about it. How many times in school did you have a lead pencil where you click, 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 you get the thing and you're writing and all of a sudden it's so sensitive, it just breaks on you all the damn time.
Well, I'm clumsy, especially when I was a kid, and I stabbed myself plenty of times to bleed.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I totally thought you were gonna be like, so how many times in school did you like stab someone else with your pencil? And they never passed out.
Yeah.
That's just where my mind went.
Oh well.
Bullshit.
I don't either know what you think, what you did in school, or what you think of me. Like
I know, right?
Something's not right though.
Damn.
No. But Frank's to me, honestly, this entire season, a lot of the success hinged on the success of Frank and Micro's relationship.
Yeah.
Like if their relationship doesn't work out, then a lot of this season is just a dud.
Yeah.
But because their relationship and like their chemistry together is so good, like a lot of this season it really is just golden. Like even when it's just those two.
Yeah.
Like even when they're just talking about like Thanksgiving turkey and like who does what in their families.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, what was it? Turkey or Salisbury? What were the options whenever they were having their Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh yeah,
like, turkey or ham maybe?
Something like that.
But
either way, the options were not great.
No,
yeah.
Microwave dinner is just not a good option.
Right. But yeah, it's like I just really appreciate the back and forth between those two. Like even early on in the episode, there was one time where Frank and Micro just got into another argument, and Frank, was about to storm out and leave, and Micro goes, "Where are you going?" And Frank goes, "I'm going to go see your wife." And it's like, you said that just to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you really do get to see they do need each other, and you get to see that because Frank is like an instrument, and Micro is really the one like directing him.
Yeah,
Frank was the missile.
Right now, he's not bossing him around, but
Right.
he's guiding him. He's giving him the very few tools that Frank lacks in his arsenal.
Plus, that drone is hella handy.
Oh,
It is.
yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, we got to talk about the scene later on too. Also,
for sure.
When they go visit Gunner. But let's hit up some other these characters here.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk about William Russo a little bit here.
That was well played.
Yes.
I remember having the same thought you had whenever we talked about it outside of this. Talking about how it's like, oh, this is William Russo, whatever. And then eventually you hear Billy being dropped. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, shit, this is future Jigsaw. Yeah, I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah.
Until it was, like, way later.
Right. Yeah, did I tell you that, or did it?
That was something we talked about. I remember I knew a little bit about Jigsaw. Like I said, my own faint readings. But
Yeah.
I was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Knew very little about him.
Yeah.
Right.
And the actor that plays him, Ben Barnes, is incredible.
I meant to tell you this,
good.
because I felt so ashamed of myself. I did not realize
Westworld.
until preparation that he's in Westworld.
Yeah.
I was like,
What?
It's like Ben Barnes. Like I knew that name, and then like he looked familiar, but I never put it together until I started preparing for the podcast. And I was like,
I watched this show.
And
Yeah.
No, I didn't watch it until this year.
Okay.
Tons of people had been like, "You need to watch Westworld." You need to watch
Right.
Westworld.
I mean, I keep hearing it all the time.
Yeah,
To
you need to watch.
It's
Yes.
so good. Don't
Yes.
look at anything on it. Just go
Do
ahead and
not.
watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I watched Westworld after I watched Punisher. So when he first shows up in Westworld, I'm like, "Oh, this dude's an asshole," and he is.
He is,
Okay,
yeah.
he really is in that show.
Okay.
But he's in it, and he's just an incredible character in both. So
Okay.
he's one of those actors where he's becoming that guy that anything that he's in, like I at least already am interested in it, just on him being in it.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
Ben Barnes.
Yeah. And obviously, well, at least he better be back for season 2 of Punisher. I don't know how to do it without him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah. But yeah, William Russo, and like you guys were talking about, it took me a while for me to recognize who he was, because I do remember sitting down on my couch, and I think it was like during episode 8 or 9 of my first watch, and I remember listening, and then like it's for some reason just clicked when someone called him. They referred to him simply as Billy Russo, and I remember thinking, okay, at this point, I know he's a villain in the TV show. I wonder if he's made for the TV show or if he's in the comics. And then in my mind, I said Billy Russo, Billy Russo. Then my mind said Billy the Beaut. Shit, he's Billy the Beaut. And then like that's where I knew he had to be Jigsaw. But yeah, so even though his origin, once again, his origin is a lot different in the comics than it is here. I love his origin here.
It's played so well.
Yeah.
Because when you first meet him, he is kind of that like pretty boy.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, he's got everything.
But you're led to believe that he has good motivations. You know, he's just kind of a, you know, like when he first meets Madani in the bar, and we'll go into her, of course. But when he first meets Madani, and like they're only a couple sentences in, and he's already trying to sleep with her.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're like, okay, he's kind of sleazy a little bit. But you can tell this is a guy who's used to getting what he wants in life. Yeah. But in a lot of the flashbacks when we see him...
Yeah, like in episode 3.
Right. Yeah, he's this really upstanding guy. He's looking out for Frank. And even when, later on in the show, when Billy Russo comes up and Micro talks to Frank about him, this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. Frank's like, I trust Billy Russo. Yeah. And you're like, you what?
Right.
You're like, okay, so Frank Castle 100% trusts this guy. Other than Kurt, we've never seen anyone like that.
Well,
even
he was a comrade.
Even Karen, he doesn't trust.
Right.
Not 100%. Yeah.
So other than Curtis, who we see them together, but not like a whole lot.
Right.
We've never seen anybody else in this mythology that Frank really trusts.
Yeah.
So you're immediately like, okay, so based on who Kurt is and how upstanding of a guy he is, this Billy Russo dude must really be on the up and up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he's got to be like Billy Russo he almost is like Red Frank could have been had things not happened in Central Park. You know?
Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah.
And especially if for some reason Frank took a position in the company too.
Well, I mean, Billy, to my knowledge, he kind of just made Anvil, you know.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
with a very fancy loan we'll talk about later.
Too. Yeah, with that cocaine money, that heroin money.
And Frank, Billy Russo really is Frank is blind to him, you know, and Micro isn't. Micro doesn't know him, so Micro's like, this is some really weird timing, you know. Are you sure about this guy? And Frank's like, I'm 100% sure. I just told you he was my friend. Is that exactly how he responds? He's defensive of him.
Right. Yeah.
And you're just like, this guy must be really awesome. Frank Castle trusts him? No.
Well, did you guys? I remember the moment because I remember thinking, you know, up until this point that you're talking about, like I don't know about Billy either. Like he could be, maybe he is going to turn around him and be like a decent person, but I kind of doubt it. And then I remember the definitive moment where he and Frank finally meet up. Remember that moment? And they have like this cool bromance moment, or like it's good to see each other, and they're talking back and forth. And like you can tell for the first time, Frank like kind of has his guard down because he's around his homeboy, and Billy's talking him up. Billy's like, "Man, it's good to see you, Frank. I'm glad you're still alive. Damn, sorry about your family and all this and that. Right. I thought you were dead, Frank. I wish you would have reached out to me, man. Like, you know, I can get you out of here, Frank. You know, we can get you on my job, get you out of the country, get you doing what you love to do. We can take care of you, Frank." And then that piece of shit, At
the very end of that same episode.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't see it the first time, but when I watched back through it, it was right there in our faces. Yeah. Because right after the amazing scene where they go see Gunner, which one we'll definitely talk about.
Yeah.
That amazing episode, right after, at the end of that episode, Agent Orange finds out that he's alive. And it's right after that Russo starts calling out to him on the radio. And, you know, like Madani,
that's true.
Madani kind of hints at it. Madani has not told Russo yet.
Yeah.
They have a great scene between Madani and Russo where she confides in him. But she hasn't told him yet when the radio calls first start coming out. And so it was just like right there.
Yeah.
But because of how trusting Frank is of him, you know, then you don't know. And when I watched back through it too, I also had the Mr. Glass scene where he's like, and they're usually friends too, just like you and me. And I was like, oh man, I was like, Samuel Jackson, you were trying to tell me the whole time.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that is, I'm going to call it this carefully, but that was definitely a vulnerability we see in John Bernthal's portrayal of Punisher throughout the whole show. I mean, even on episode 1, when none of his comrades were really brought up, he's sitting on the rooftop having his pathetic sandwich. And then the Latino kid, I can't remember his name. What was his name again?
I don't know. I almost said
we never got
whatever.
I almost said Hector, but that would just would have been extremely racist and not it.
Okay, well, not Hector was sitting there chilling with him, and he doesn't give a crap about what this kid is saying until it's like, yeah, my grandfather served. And then he finally looked at him, and that was like the first moment he actually acknowledged this kid.
Well, I think it was his father, he said.
Someone in his family.
Yeah, his father.
But then it showed again that same thing where he has that vulnerability, that mad respect for any other guy who served, who was especially a Marine like him, you know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome that not only he does that so well as an actor, but also that they get that other depth to the Punisher. Because you're right, he doesn't trust. And when he does, it's just like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you correctly. Right. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, people like of course, Frank and Curtis and Billy and Gunner, like, they all been through shit, like, together.
Oh, yeah. No, there's that camaraderie.
Yeah. And then, like, not just, like, because camaraderie can just come between, like, you know, being in any situation with your homeboys and you grow closer together, you know.
A really bad job here somewhere.
Yeah. But, like, this camaraderie came from, like, life or death situations and, like, saving each other's lives and, like, it's just bullshit that comes from war, building that kind of camaraderie, you know. I mean, you know, they often say that the strongest camaraderie does come from being in situations like war, you know, which a lot of guys yearn for it after the fact. But one thing, though, about this scene, though, because I do want to talk about the Gunner scene, the Gunner Henderson scene.
Such a good scene.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So, of course, we first see Gunner in I think, episode 3. It's like the flashback scene.
Yeah, the religious soldier.
Yeah. And I like this guy from the get-go just because of, like, his sense of humor and just, like, you know, just the way that he kind of carries himself. Yeah. And he was already well-respected amongst his people. But it's during the scene where there's the what's that guy's name? The operative who was working with Madani in Afghanistan when he strung up.
Zubair.
Zubair, that's it.
The guy that's kind of central to the whole thing.
He is.
Exactly.
We only see like a few lines of dialogue from Zubair the whole movie, but his murder is what sets all of this into motion. And I thought that was really cool. When you see the murder the first time, you're like,
whatever.
Oh man, they just killed that guy. That sucks. You know, people die in this show a lot. But that one thing, and Gunner's decision to tape it, we find out Gunner's
Gunner that taped it. Yeah.
You know, he was the guy with the biggest conscience kind of in the group. It didn't sit well with him what they were doing, and he didn't even know about the heroin at that point. I mean, that moment kind of just sets off everything, and it was cool how they kind of reveal throughout the whole show, like every time this moment comes back up, it's bigger and it's tied to more things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, it was Gunner that come to find out he was the one that was recording it. And then afterwards, when they're burying Zubair, you know, Gunner even looks at Frank and, you know, he goes, are you cool with what we're doing?
Does this sit well with you?
Yeah, does it sit well with you? Yeah. Yeah, because it feels like we just executed this man. And
especially when Frank is sitting there literally digging the bullet out.
Yeah. Like, it was messed up. Yeah.
They obviously knew what they were doing. They just didn't like it.
Right. Yeah. It was a shitty situation, man. But, yeah, like you said, Zubair's murder and that recording really, especially Zubair's murder in general, really sets things off, especially for Madani. But then, like, the tape also really brings things around, too. And so just bringing things back to present day now. So eventually Frank and of course David, they go and to visit Gunner to try to see what he knows. Maybe he knows who this Agent Orange is. And as they go to visit him, first of all, it's a good thing that Frank let David go, because first Frank wasn't going to let David go.
He had a whole argument about it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And Michael was like hell, I'm staying.
Yeah. And thank goodness they decided to go, and we get the hilarious scene where Frank is eating this pouch of tuna.
I know, right?
Versus Micro's like giant. And here's the real fucked up thing about the scene is that Micro he's eating this sub. Like, there's two halves of this giant sub.
Exactly. He doesn't give it.
Did you bring me one?
Yeah. No. All the stuff is in the fridge. Yeah. Like,
and he keeps eating the sandwich shamelessly, and you see the anger.
Right.
It's so great.
One of those instances where the humor in this show was incredibly well done. Such a dark show, and the few times there is humor, it's well executed.
It is,
and it makes sense.
Right.
We talk about like Marvel a lot, with them placing the humor in inappropriate places. There's none of that in this show.
Of it,
There's no point where Frank just like brutally murders someone and then starts cracking jokes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So at this point now, Gunnar, he is living off the grid. Like, this man has very little to trace him with. The only thing he has, like the deed to the land and the cabin. Like, that's pretty much the only thing they have to trace Gunnar off of. And so Frank's on the land. And fortunately, Frank knows to not try to sneak up on this man.
Yeah, he's just walking.
Right. He's yelling, yelling yelling his name, Gunnar, it's me, Frank, making himself known before,
And we see why.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Poor Frank.
Unfortunately, it still doesn't quite work out for Frank.
No. Gunnar was still quite paranoid.
Yeah.
Ironically, Gunnar didn't use a gun. Yeah.
Very true. But yeah, he for all of Frank's efforts, he gets an arrow right to like the right shoulder, and like shit, that had to hurt.
And it ends up being like the worst of all of it. Everything that happens in this whole scene.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene where later on where the arrow gets removed is hard to watch.
It was gruesome.
That brings up a good point I wanted to make earlier. I forgot about it. Kurt is the best bro.
Oh yeah,
ever.
Like he's the one you go into at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like, hey, I got shot with an arrow in the shoulder, a hunting arrow. Please take this out.
Right.
I'm on it, man.
Yeah,
Let me put my leg on.
Yeah,
yeah.
He was the best.
Yeah.
And he also has been through some shit
too.
Yeah.
He talked about like where he was the medic and like they gave him the goat and had him name it. And they like blew the goat up and stabbed the goat and they were like, heal him, put him back together.
Yeah.
Insanity. I mean, and for him to still be the person that he is after going through all that stuff is a huge testament to his character.
Oh yeah.
Plus that, and also how they told us, the story of how he lost the leg, and then that itself was just fascinating too. How he's just best friends with this guy who subsequently was the reason he lost his leg. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, because it really goes to show, like, if anyone has anything to lose, it'd be Curtis. And I didn't mean that with the leg, pun intended.
Aren't you just the pun?
Damn it. Oh my gosh. I'm going home.
Oh shit.
I thought my puns were bad.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
Both of you guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so just to bring this back real quick, it's just really interesting to see how, in a weird way, Lewis envies Curtis. Because, Lewis at one point is like, at least you came back, you had something to show for it. And, Curtis was like, no, you don't get it. And at this point, he really didn't get it. But yeah, just to bring back things around, though, to the scene with Gunnar in the woods here. So my question here also is, does Gunnar still live in Kentucky? And did they drive all the way to Kentucky?
That was Kentucky.
They did, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't interfere with anything. It's just a long drive.
That's a long drive on a pouch of tuna.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I mean,
I would have really stopped some jerky or something,
Right.
And I can understand why Micro brought the big ass sandwich.
Right. But so yeah, he gets shot with the arrow, and then fortunately, like afterwards, Gunnar finally realizes it is Frank. I mean, and Gunnar had a good reason to not trust him, because as far as Gunnar knew, Frank was dead.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah,
and he was there
right
for all that stuff, and he knew that he had taken the recording.
Yeah,
he knows he's responsible for it being out there.
Yeah, and
Frank could have easily been working with.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh
exactly.
yeah, exactly. I mean, because once again, like, it could have been Billy that came. I mean, should he trust Billy? No.
And he knows Frank is a dangerous
Right.
mofo.
Yeah.
I mean, you do not want to listen to Frank Castle. He knows. He's seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Even after he keeps yelling, "It wasn't me, brother. It was never me." Yeah.
Especially that scene, the flashback scene we see where. Schoonover actually gets wounded and everything, and Frank
gets his leg blown off. Yeah,
he's just killing.
Oh my gosh, that was an amazing scene.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, just the rage. I mean, it was like a constant 0 cuts. Like 5-6 minutes of just Punisher rage.
And the background song was literally the perfect choice.
Absolutely. So Gunner was there.
Yeah,
he knows that went down.
Right.
I would probably shoot him too.
Exactly.
Oh, Frank's the shit. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Gunner knows that Frank basically ran into this war zone that was covered with enemies, and then Frank walked out. No one else did.
Yeah.
And
he brutally murdered everyone. I think it was a grenade. That he just doesn't set the grenade off, but he beat the guy to death.
He had a rock.
Yeah, it was a rock.
It was a rock. Yeah. Oh man, that whole scene was incredible.
Yeah, that guy had a machine gun, and Frank had a rock.
Exactly,
and Frank won.
Exactly,
hands down.
Well, he had the rock and power grunts. Just it was great.
Yeah.
Those grunts charge up the attack.
Yeah,
it's like +5.
Yeah. So also really quick, because I don't want to forget this otherwise, but how great is John Bernthal as Frank Castle?
He's stupid good. Dude.
Oh man, he's so good that you could do a podcast about how good he is in that role. I mean, it just really, he is the iconic Punisher. I mean, he is in the same vein as Heath Ledger's Joker. Or in my opinion, Christian Bale's Batman. That's controversial. Yeah. We don't have to go into that. But in my opinion...
that shouldn't be controversial.
I know it shouldn't, but that's not the world we live in.
The listeners know that shouldn't be controversial, and they're right, listeners.
Exactly. Christian Bale's the best Batman, hands down. In the story. But yeah, I mean, he is that iconic sort of... I mean, he's... It would be like having someone else play Luke Skywalker to have someone else play Punisher at this point. It's Mark Hamill level devotion,
Good reference. Damn, yeah, that's an eye opener.
Yeah, and that's saying something because how long has Mark Hamill been Luke Skywalker?
Forever.
Yeah,
all time. And will be for all time. Yeah. They ever recast him, it's over with.
Exactly.
I don't know. Disney might try some shit. I don't know. But I think that John Bernthal casting is like divine choosing from the heavens.
Whoever cast Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Shit, well, that's saying something because Hugh was not first on the list to be Wolverine. He was like third or fourth.
Who was it? It was Nicolas Cage. He was on the list, and Mel Gibson was on the list.
I know Mel Gibson was on the list. I don't know if Nick Cage was on that list.
Yeah, no, he was on the list too.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he and Mel Gibson were on the list before Hugh.
Yeah.
So it's like, thank you.
That is proof that we do not live in the darkest timeline.
Yeah. There's some timeline out there where Nick Cage is
both Superman and Wolverine and the Punisher.
There's one with Nick Cage is all of them.
Oh, shit.
Nick Cage is Thanos.
You guys see my stones?
Yeah. We gotta rule this thing.
We really do. We do.
That should be the podcast picture when we put this up. Nick Cage is.
No, I want people to click on the link, Kevin.
Yeah. but back to the subject. John Bernthal he is. I mean,
he's.
I don't
amazing.
know what we could say. He's just. He's got the intensity. He's got. I was about to go integrity, and then I was like, no, don't do that. No, three eyes. That's a Kurt Angle reference. If anybody didn't get that. But yeah, I mean, he's just got all the aspects of Frank Castle. He's got it down.
Even the little mannerisms, he has them down.
Yep.
Like it's incredible. Like I remember going back and I was watching an episode of Daredevil season 2. It was the scene where he and Karen were sitting in this little diner at nighttime, and he was talking with Karen, and he goes, dude, he goes, what about the lawyer? And she's like, what lawyer are you talking about? He goes, the blind one. Oh, Matt? Yeah, he's all right. He goes, you love him, don't you? She goes, I have feelings for him. Yeah, you love him. I can see it in your eyes. And the way you look at him and all the little mannerisms, all the little things you do. Let me tell you something about him. And he just goes to like this whole little rant. Yeah. Like not getting upset, but like he's upset. Like it's weird.
No, it's John Bernthal's energy. Like he was so good at it as Shane.
Yeah.
And he just... Oh my gosh! Like he evolved it and became more Frank Castle. This show, like Daredevil season 2, I loved him. I YouTubed his scene just to watch it individually in the courtroom. Yeah. When he's just like, "You think you're gonna make me regret this?" Like, oh my gosh,
He like twists his mouth a little bit when he goes on these rants, and it's usually like. What he says in these rants is usually very, very true, and it's usually something that the recipient of said rant is not prepared to hear.
Exactly. You know? And especially in the way that they're going to hear it, just with the intensity. Yeah.
And you know, the thing is too, that actually brings me back to like when he finally agrees to let Micro help him. I love this part where he says one condition: they all die.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I said earlier, like, you need to see Daredevil season 2 because it explains how little faith he has in the judicial system. That's never really covered in this show. You know, he's like, no trials, they all die.
Yeah.
But in Daredevil season 2, you get to see 100% why he feels that way. Because there's no justice for his family. They didn't find the people that did it. He had to take it on himself to do that. And then he's the person that they ended up putting in prison, even though he was just a victim in all this, and he's, you know, served his country and everything. And he ends up being the one going to prison. So, like, he doesn't have any faith in the judicial system. That's why he's like, they all die. You know, we're going to be their justice, essentially.
Yeah. And, it's just incredible, his whole performance. I love it. But, just to wrap up this, the scene with Gunner. So, essentially, like, once the two make up, you're like, my bad for shooting you, Frank. It's all good, man. Shortly thereafter, like about what is it? About six agents. Start the ambush, and now at this point they're outgunned. They're outmatched. They have tons. Because at this point, Frank? I don't think he went back for his pistol because before he approached Gunner, he dropped his backpack and his pistol. Just to let Gunner know that, he doesn't go back for that backpack, does he?
No. He disarms and uses their own.
And these guys are like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare geared out. Okay, they all have like cameras, like they're being assisted by Agent Orange. They all have like the top level gear. They have like tracer sight rounds in their weapons. I mean, they just have all like basically they are like as top geared out as you would think. You know,
and they're against a guy with a crossbow and a guy with a crossbow arrow in his shoulder.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they still lose. But also they're going up against Micro as well. Because Micro, because I often thought, like, if Micro's not there, do they walk out of this? Does Frank walk out of this alive?
Well, no, because he doesn't walk out of it alive anyway.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He had to get carried.
That's true. Yeah.
Which had just occurred to me. He had to drive him all the way.
Good point.
Yeah.
And that also brought up a question I wanted to ask you guys. Do you think Micro actually buried Hunter? Like, I have no reason to not believe it, but at the same...
Wait a minute, now, did they say that...
Gunner. Yeah.
Now, did they say that Micro buried him, or did they say that the body was left for us to find?
No. So, they actually... I watched this episode, like, in the last couple of days. So, when Madani and Stein, who we haven't talked about, it is her partner. When Madani and Stein arrive on the scene after all this goes down, she says they wanted to be found. They called the local police and told them where the body was buried.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Micro has to bury him because Frank is definitely not capable of it at this point.
No, I was wondering because Micro, we see some weird character traits for this guy. We definitely see some awesome small accentations going on with him. For instance, the whole, I don't play guitar. But then, like, a couple episodes later, we see him pulling out this awesome riff. Like, he knows how to play guitar. He was just lying. You know? And little things like that he's done. So it's like, oh, okay, did he really bury him in my mind? But thank you. I didn't think to listen for the police report. Yeah.
Good point.
Cool.
Yep. That's what we got you. That's what we got you here for, Caleb.
That intellectual power.
Yeah. The genius level intellect. It's a superpower. But so unfortunately, Gunner does not make it out of this alive. He says some interesting things to Frank, though. By the way, this entire scene is amazingly done. Like when they're taking out all these, are they Anvil guys or Agent Orange? I think it's Agent Orange guys.
Agent Orange guys. They're just military.
They're probably. I kind of picture them being like kind of dirty CIA operatives. Because at this point, we have found out, or I think it's right after this, we find out that he works at the CIA.
Yeah, because he gets made head of security.
He's the deputy director.
Deputy director,
CIA. Was he head of security before that?
I thought he was, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch his initial position, but we do have the scene where the new director of the CIA promotes him to deputy director.
But yeah, so I thought that this entire scene was extremely incredible. As a matter of fact, part of this scene was used as one of the many trailers that they released for Punisher. Like the scene where Punisher, it shows from the perspective of one of the guys sneaking around trying to find Punisher. And then Punisher comes out of nowhere and just kills the guy, and like he's looking dead into the camera as he's doing it. And then that part was actually used as part of a promotional campaign for Punisher when they were doing the show. So I thought that was pretty clever.
I mean, these guys are very good. They have selected a level on the video game that they are not equipped for.
Exactly.
Yeah. During this, Gunner gets shot. Frank gets shot again. And I think Gunner gets shot twice. They said he gets shot through the hand and through the gut.
I was about to say, he definitely took, a couple of fatal bullets there.
Unfortunately, he does not make it out. But he says some interesting things to Frank, like, he says something along the lines like, you're the best of us. You've always been better than me. Something like that. He mutters some really humbling things to Frank, like for his dying breaths. He also says, "Kind of figured I would die in these woods."
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And it was unfortunate to see Gunner go for a couple of reasons. One, because he seemed like a good guy, and two, because Frank could use another ally who he can trust. Yeah. And
are you willing to leave Kentucky and go to New York with me? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have an extensive list of people that could be his allies, And at this point, he thinks Billy Russo is on that list, and we know that he is not. Spoiler.
So really quick here, let's talk about some of these other characters here. I want to talk about some of these other characters, and then kind of wrap it up and talk about the conclusion here.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about. We talked about Jigsaw. Oops, spoiler. Let's talk about Agent Orange himself. Let's talk about William Rawlins.
He carried that role amazingly.
Didn't he, though?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't he just an asshole?
Freaking Paul Schultz.
Yeah, Paul Schultz.
No redeemable qualities.
No,
not at all. Almost sociopathic to a level. Yeah.
Well, he showed no regard for any other human life.
No, everything was just logical to him. Like, oh, well, we can get away with it through this. Well, whoa, what about the morality of that? You know?
It didn't bother him at all.
Yeah.
Like, he viewed soldiers almost as like
pawns.
Yeah. You can tell he really does. They're just tools for him to use.
Right.
Because the other villains in the show, which I would say are Lewis and then Billy Russo, we're meant to empathize with them at some level. There's no point where you empathize with Rollins. There's just no point where that happens.
Right.
He's just totally unredeemable.
Dickhead. Yeah. From the moment you see him, basically, until his death. I mean, which his death is gonna be something we talk about.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh.
But I remember the scene where, to me, this man immediately became just like the number one shitbag. Was in episode 3. It was after the shitbag of an operation that they do. And they finally make it all back in. Like, they're all just fucked up. Every single one of them. Like, Frank is puking like bile and blood.
He's having a panic attack, basically.
Yeah. And then
I was literally about to describe the same scene.
Right. And then all Rollins can do is like, well, did you get the target? Did you get the target? And like, he's just not letting up on it either.
Yeah.
There's a new Avengers trailer. Okay, we'll get back to that later, though. Super Bowl, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And then a new Westworld trailer.
Can't watch it. I'm a one trailer guy when it comes tomorrow. I'll watch the first one. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I black out until
you are a good person. I say that I have to watch the trailers because of the podcast. That may or may not be true. But no, it was during this scene right here though, where like these soldiers. First of all, a lot of them didn't make it back. Schoonover is missing a leg. Yeah. And half of these guys, they're going to be messed up for life now because of this. And all he can think about is, did you get the target? And Frank, how hard does Frank hit this man in the face
to bust his eye?
Yeah,
immediately.
Yeah,
like he was
one hit done.
Yeah,
that was amazing. I loved that range.
Yeah. I mean, that was a hell of a hit. And
you want to talk about trusting rage, Loki? That's the rage you trust. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, his eye was fucked up. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah,
it's like stayed that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because when Frank hit him and there's blood on Rollins' face, it's like, was that blood from Frank's fist? Or was that blood from his eye?
But then you see him like, oh gosh, and it's like, oh nope.
Yeah, it's messed up. Now, William Rollins, he is actually a villain from the comic books. He does look a little bit more cliche villainous in the comics. He has like a goatee and an eye patch. Yeah. Almost a little Deathstroke-ish, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, but just like in the comics, he is like a CIA operative who also is dirty. He's dealing with heroin and all that shit. But here with Rollins, though, he really is like the worst of the worst. He has allowed himself to work his way up through the ranks here at the CIA, and he has just infiltrated it and really become a scumbag.
Yeah. Which you kind of wonder the background of the character a little bit there, because they describe him as a rich kid, like he was born and raised in hard old money, you know.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, like, how he actually obtained that rank so well, because of his name, because of his money, all of the above. Probably so.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't honest. Right. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I just think about it like this: like when the head of CIA, when she asked him, "Do you have any skeletons in the closet that I need to know about?" He like almost immediately goes, "No," like with no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I said he's almost sociopathic.
Yeah.
Because he was so good at just like, no.
Yeah.
I got no problems. And that's the one we knew about. Who knows what other illegal shit he was involved in?
Oh,
you know? Yeah.
You can tell that this person, like the existing director of the CIA, she trusts him completely. Mm-hmm. She's like, I just got this new role. You're the person I trust to have my back. You know, she obviously thinks he's an upstanding person.
Right.
I mean, they have him like teaching new recruits at the CIA and stuff, right? You know, before that. And you know, to this day, he obviously has like some off the books like Marine guys that he sent after Frank and Gunner. You know,
his own personal team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's still dirty. He's been dirty.
Yeah. The look on his face when he sees Frank, that Frank is still alive, is priceless.
It is. Yeah,
it is very, very good. I freaking love that.
Because him and Billy both think they've gotten away with it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Really quick because we're coming up on 2 hours almost now.
We are. Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, it was 13 hours of content.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
so much
amazing content.
Yeah, it's all so good. Before we get to the demise of Rollins and Russo, I want to talk again about Lewis a little bit, Lewis Wilson, and his demise. Because, like you said, he is a sympathetic character. He is someone who you wish things had gone differently for. So let's kind of talk about like where he really starts to go wrong. I need you guys to remind me here because after the incident with his name starts with Curtis. After the incident with Curtis, those two get into a fight. Mm-hmm. And Curtis is kind of whooping his ass, and then Lewis goes for the leg, and he gets the leg, and then that kind of disables Curtis a little bit.
Dick move, by the way.
Yeah,
very much so.
Mm-hmm. Because Curtis is like he's bigger, he's stronger, and he's like more experienced. More experienced.
Doesn't he blow up the police station or whatever before the confrontation with Curtis?
I can't blow something up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what.
I thought it was the precinct. I thought he set a bomb off at the precinct where that cop worked or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of got the city because when you first find out something happened, they're on the roof and you see the explosion.
Yeah, because Karen Page had to write something.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, because he was like, me and Karen Page are like on the same team. And Karen was like, no, we ain't.
No, we're not.
Yeah. And she wrote that piece about him that did not sit well with him at all.
Frank's watching like, what are you doing, Karen?
Yeah. Basically. But so yeah, at this point, he's gone off the deep end here. Now, what a lot of critics of the show have said is that this is kind of for them where the show goes off rails, because they take this character who, in a sense, is kind of grounded in realism, and then they turn him into like a typical villain, is what they say. I say that they don't really understand like the full aspect of this character here.
Yeah.
Because to me, Lewis is coming from a spot of not having a place in society and things not being right in the world, and now he wants to try to make things right himself. He wants to be the man that no one else is willing to be. I mean, he really is kind of like an antithesis for Punisher.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what he becomes. And I mean, I think that was a really great role for this character to play.
It's not that unbelievable either.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, there are several real life terrorists that you could kind of link up to a similar background.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like, it immediately draws a parallel to Dylan Roof, who's the guy that murdered the people in South Carolina in the church. He was this racist terrorist, and it's kind of the same thing with Lewis. Is like, you got this guy that's very troubled, and he can be molded by somebody, and he starts to buy into this kind of extremist ideology, and next thing you know, you're killing innocent people and things like that. So this has happened in the real world.
Yeah, this has happened in reality. Absolutely. Yeah. And he's doing these things, and from his perspective, he is right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
To him, he's the good guy.
Yeah, and he doesn't understand why other people don't get it the way that he does. But one thing though about this actor is that, like, the look in his eyes, like, I don't know how you act that, because he looks like he has lost it.
Daniel Webber is his name.
Yeah.
He was also really good. Yeah. Oh, creepy good. You know, like, damn. Yeah.
Amazingly good. But yeah, his death though, like, because I remember thinking, like, at first, like, I wonder if they're gonna kill this guy off. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. He's gone, buddy.
He definitely.
They have to take out all the food that was in that fridge. It's all bad.
Yeah.
It really reminded me the way he goes out of the end of Law Abiding Citizen. Have you seen that?
That's with Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx.
Where he, he's got the bomb set to go off, and Jamie Foxx puts it in his cell. Yeah, and then he lets him set it off. It was kind of like the same deal. He ended up blowing himself up in the with his own stuff in the was it a freezer?
It was a freezer.
Yeah.
And so also at this point, like, shit goes down for Frank also. He tells Karen, tell them that I kidnapped you. Like, if Frank doesn't already have a bad rap, then...
Exactly.
Yeah. And so from here, shit just slides downhill for Frank. But moving on here, because we haven't really talked a whole lot about Madani.
We haven't talked at all about Madani.
She's such a great character.
Yeah. Amber Rose Reva, technically is her name. She plays the role of Dina Madani, and she does kind of a funny name to say. But I'm not gonna lie, it took a couple episodes in for me to start to like this character.
Right.
Yeah. Because at first didn't really care for her that much, but it took some time. But once I really saw how good she is at her job, once she started doing good at her job,
and how you actually saw that she was one of the good ones too. The purebreds actually do care about doing justice. About having things being right. Not just about doing things about the book, but doing things right. From a moral perspective, she really did become like a really good character.
And she's smart.
She's smart,
incredibly smart. Like when she finds out that Castle's still alive, she already knows that there's something wrong with the system. Like, for instance, Carson Wolf, who was originally her boss, Frank kills. Frank tells her straight up, "Yeah, I killed him." She doesn't tell anyone immediately, because she's playing it very close to the chest. She knows there's some sort of conspiracy going on here, some underlying issue. She doesn't know all the details to put it all together, but she knows, she can start to sense, like, there are multiple layers to this whole conspiracy.
Yeah, she knows that Carson Wolf is dirty, and which, by the way, I wish we had more time, because I would love to go in depth about that as well. Because that Carson Wolf fight,
exactly, that interrogation,
the way that Frank plays it, man, the whole thing is way good. But just back to Madani though, she is really smart, because, like, I remember in like episode 2 or 3, it's really early on in the series, where she sets up an operation for her guys to train with Anvil, and she does that just as you can get to know who this Billy Russo guy is.
Right.
Stupid
And
smart.
Really smart.
Good,
Yeah. But yeah, she's extremely intelligent, and I think that's really what keeps her alive throughout all of this. But yeah, her character really comes around. I think it was shortly after Micro hit her with the truck when I started to like her.
Yeah.
She was like back at work like the next day.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
And I really like the interview between like her and Karen Page, because this is one of the scenes where I like Karen Page the most, because sometimes I'm on the fence about Karen Page.
Yeah.
But like in this series, I really like Karen, and in this scene, I think I like her probably more than I ever have. Because she's giving it to
She's
Madani.
carrying herself well.
Yeah.
That whole interview is everything's between the lines.
Yeah.
Like they say one thing and we as the audience know they mean something else.
Right.
But the other person on the other side of the table doesn't know that.
Yeah.
But I think they both kind of sensed it from each other. You know, the way that they played the scene.
Yeah.
That they're kind of like, okay, she can't directly say what she means right here. And you know, especially when Madani mentions Frank Castle and Karen's like, oh, well, it sucks that's who you're looking for because he's dead.
Because he's dead,
you know?
yeah.
And Madani just kind of looks and you kind of get the idea that Karen, at that point, that she kind of knows that maybe she doesn't know that she's seen him, but that maybe she's
questioning
sort of
it.
Exactly. Yeah, like, why would I know who killed Carson Wolf? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The way they're just so coy with each other, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on here. So let's talk about William Russo here, about Billy Russo again, because I really want to talk about the evolution of this character. When do you think that he went batshit crazy?
It's definitely once everything starts to fall apart. I mean, so there's a couple things with Russo. Number one, both Frank and Madani, he betrays both of these characters on just such a deep level.
Oh, yeah.
Frank's family, and then the whole thing with Madani where he's sleeping with her.
Yeah.
He kills her partner.
Sam Stein.
That scene was incredible.
Yeah.
Because at that point, we already know that he's a bad guy.
Right.
We know he's a villain. He kills her partner and then sleeps with her afterwards.
Yes.
Yep.
And he's like...
He's bathing her.
Yeah, he's like comforting her and everything over the death of his partner, or of her partner. And like, he's the one that killed him. I mean, it was just that whole scene.
Yeah.
And you feel so bad for Stein in that scene because it's like, he's like choking on his own blood.
Right, like it was a gruesome way to go.
Oh, yeah.
And like the last thing he sees Billy Russo's face.
Right.
And it just all comes together for him. You can see it in his eyes.
And it's like, if he could talk in that moment,
Exactly.
you know. And it is tragic, and Madani feels terrible about it because he essentially knows that had it not been for her plan, you know, then he'd probably still be alive.
Yeah.
Can I confess something real quick, guys?
Yeah.
I did not care for Sam's character at all.
No.
I didn't care for him until then.
that scene.
Until that scene.
Yeah. That scene is like, oh shit, like I kind of care about this guy now.
Yeah.
Don't take him away yet. But every moment until then, it just kind of felt like his job was to be the bitchy friend for Madani.
Yeah,
like every time she had an idea, me, you know.
Yeah.
He had a little comic relief in there.
Yeah, he did.
A little bit,
So you kind of thought maybe he was going to be that character. Oh no, Billy Russo just stabbed his ass.
Yeah.
With his classic knife, the push dagger, But
So yeah, that was a pretty tragic death, and Madani took it real hard.
It downed her,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Russo just goes from being this kind of likable but kind of sleazy type guy.
This charismatic Joe.
You're just like, oh my god, this guy's just... It's almost like he doesn't have a conscience.
Yeah. It's like he's becoming Rollins almost. And that aspect,
To an extent. I think Rollins is just like pretty evil. Russo, I get on the other hand, is just incredibly selfish. Like, you know, I don't think he would have went out of his way to hurt Frank, but Frank was in between him and his ambitions, or his family was rather.
Yeah.
So they had to go. With Madani, man, it's just, you know, he wanted to sleep with her.
Yeah.
And then she got his way, and it was just like, well, I'm going to have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to fast forward here because we're running out of time. I want to fast forward to the scene where Frank is now a captive of Rollins and Russo.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
Yeah. This whole scene I thought was incredibly done. Frank Castle gets demolished. His face becomes pudding, essentially. And
most of his body.
Yeah.
He was bleeding through his shirt.
Oh yeah. It's hard to watch even because at this point, even before this point, like Frank is the guy who we're rooting for, obviously.
Yeah.
And to see him like with each and every hit, because you know how in a lot of movies or television shows for interrogations, when like they hit, you see one scene for the pullback and then a different cut like for the follow through.
Right.
Like so you never really see like the hit. You just kind of see like the aftermath of it.
Yeah, that didn't happen here.
Didn't happen here. Yeah. We see John Berthal and then we see Rollins. Yeah. And like there's one point where we see like 3 or 4 punches to the face, like just back to back to back, and it is
with those damn gloves on.
With
too,
those
all the
gloves
time.
on. Yeah. You're a stupid little glove. and there's one point where Frank gets hit so hard he just kind of shuts down. He goes into dreamland, and this branch like, look, bro, you are in trouble right now. I'm gonna put you in the spot with your wife and try to make you feel a little bit better about what's happening right now.
See, I thought that was artfully done too, because when I watched that moment where he's in and out of consciousness, in this moment with Agent Orange beating the piss out of him, and then out of this moment back again with his wife who's trying to tell him, look, come home with me. That whole time was just super symbolic for me. Just like, hey, you could let go right now. You could just let yourself die.
Yeah.
And we'd be together in this moment, quote unquote, whatever.
Right.
But I loved how it's like, and that was, I think, that was the title of that episode too, where it's like, no, I am home. Mm-hmm. And then like that was the moment where he finally like pauses, doesn't let his wife take him away, and he just wakes the hell back up. And I loved it, I loved the deepness that showed for Frank's character. Like, no, I still have things to do here. Yeah. Like, I'd love to be with you, sure.
Right. Had this happened at the beginning of the season, I think
he would have taken it.
Yeah.
He would have been like, well, hell yeah, I got my bags packed, you know? Yeah. My mental bags.
Right. but at this point, absolutely.
I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, the whole thing is being recorded.
Yes.
And broadcast. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the brilliance of all of it, is like, this was a haymaker by Frank, where he's basically, it's a Hail Mary, like he's in there and it's the last thing he can possibly do.
Right.
He's like, we're going to get all this on tape with them admitting everything, because he just doesn't have any other recourse at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously these guys know Frank Castle very well, but not as well as they think they do, because it doesn't matter if you beat the hell out of him and he's tied to a chair, like, you still don't want to be in the room with Frank Castle.
Exactly. No. And what you guys think about the murder of Rollins, or the death of Rollins?
Freaking awesome!
It was incredible.
It was great.
And really, he kind of turns on Russo in the show too.
Oh yeah,
Russo. I think through the whole thing, he knows like Rollins is number one. He might let me be number two, but if at any point I'm inconvenient to Rollins, he's going to turn on me. Yeah. And that came back to bite him in the ass.
Yes, it did.
Russo could have stopped Frank.
Yeah.
Plus, I think you made a very clever point earlier. He saw that Rollins was in the way of furthering his own ambition too. Like Rollins kept reminding him, like, "Hey, you're my pawn. You're my bitch." Yeah. And I think, like, well, you know what? I got my buddy Frank here. You do what you do, buddy. You do what you do best. Yeah.
And at this point, we've already seen the scenes with Russo's mom.
Oh yeah,
where he basically is keeping her in a state where he can just like torture her.
Yeah,
that was insane.
Right.
That really showed like just how off the rails he is.
Yeah.
So of course he's not. He doesn't care about Rollins if he can do that to his own mother.
Exactly. Yeah. Frank brutally kills Rollins.
Appropriately and beautifully.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a great thing that was done. The road was made better that day, for sure.
Pop.
Yeah. So now, real quick here, let's fast forward to the last episode here, where we're back in Central Park at the merry-go-rounds, and we have Billy Russo, versus Frank Castle. What you guys think of this scene as a whole here, about the fight and about the symbolism and about the story being told?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the episode before that could have been the end of the show.
It could have been, yeah.
Easily could have been. They
could have been with
up.
Billy getting away.
Yeah. But they gave us this whole extra hour of Russo versus Frank in this epic symbolic chess game in the place where it all went down.
Yep, the all cards on the table, because at this point Russo's been exposed. Like, everyone's looking for him.
Yeah, he's been exposed. But also, how brilliant of Russo was to do this, to have it be at the spot where Frank's family was killed.
Yep.
And then to have hostages on top of that.
Yep. Hostages that were bleeding.
Yeah.
Like, they were, he injured them.
Yeah. I mean, it was extremely, and then like apparently they had like time-sensitive wounds.
Exactly. Yeah. They were kind of bleeding out, but you don't really see heavy evidence of that type of thing. Yeah.
But
he was playing to all of Frank's weak spots.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, so like, and it's so interesting because the way that it was designed for Frank to fail because his psyche wouldn't be able to take it.
Yep.
In the end, it was Russo's psyche that ended up cracking, and I thought that was incredible. Yeah.
Plus, merry-go-round, firing bullets on a merry-go-round. Like,
these are two highly trained people.
Exactly.
So,
Oh, that's I see what you're saying there, but it's like two highly trained people playing tag through these horses. Yeah.
And of course we get the scene because at this point, like I said, maybe 4 or 5 episodes prior, I was like, he's Billy the Beaut, but he's still the Beaut right now. Like there has to come a time where he's no longer the Beaut and he's just Jigsaw.
Definitely.
Yes.
That scene was really hard to watch.
Yeah. Are you talking about the glass?
The glass scene.
Yeah.
That was intense.
The scream that Ben Barnes lets out. I mean, there's just so many times, like, when I watched back through it, I thought about where Lewis kills O'Connor, and he stabs him, and O'Connor's kind of like, oh, he does kind of the movie, oh, I've been stabbed.
Yeah.
If you think about it, actually being stabbed like that, you would be screaming, top of your lungs.
Oh, yeah.
But in movies, like, that's not usually done, because, like, they want to give you the illusion somebody's being stabbed, but they don't really want you freaking out in your chair. Not in this scene.
Yeah.
Nope. I mean, it is literally like that scream is like you believe his face is being peeled off.
Yes. Oh man. Absolutely.
Peeled off and glass shards becoming his skeletal muscles. Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you this: why doesn't Frank just kill him?
That's too good for him.
Yeah.
After everything he's put Frank to, because as we've talked about, Frank trusted this guy.
Yeah.
Rollins was always an asshole.
Yeah.
Rollins got what he deserved.
Yeah.
But Russo just...
He transcended typical criminal. Like, he was above that.
It was
couldn't just
insanely
die.
personal.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the previous episode when Frank was tied up, and Russo says, "If you give us what we want, then I'll give you a clean death. I'll give you a quick death." And Frank was like, "Death feels worse than instant death. I used to want death every day, And I think that kind of like comes back here and now.
Yeah, that definitely spurred Frank into thinking, hey, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah.
And also just thematically, after everything that happened with Madani, I was really hoping she was going to show up because I was like, Madani should really get the kill on this.
Yeah.
If they're going to take him out, I was thinking like maybe at any moment like Russo was going to get the upper hand on Frank and then Madani just off screen was going to shoot him. Something like that would happen. And she does get to arrest him.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She shows up, and so she gets her kind of moment where she gets to pay him back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm glad they worked that in for both characters to appropriately address their misgivings with Mr. Russo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think Frank still got the better deal, though. I mean, he peeled off the Bute's face.
Yeah.
I mean, he honestly got it worse than Rollins at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think about the ending of this season after Frank? He's basically given like a pardon.
I definitely wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
You're talking about the last scene,
the very
right?
last scene. Yeah.
I thought that was super creative. I don't think I myself would have thought of that if I were in the writer's chair.
Right.
To one, take advantage of the most sacred rule of those rehab group type meetings where it's like, don't ask, don't tell, don't crosstalk, And it's like, oh, well, now we're not going to ask or tell, but we get to listen to Frank Castle, the guy who apparently is a criminal, who also is a super apparently was dead.
Yeah.
And I thought that was super well done. And then the monologue he gave, I keep trying to reflect on it myself, honestly, just to try to like pull out everything he meant there. I'd like to hear some more of what you guys thought he meant too, though, definitely, before I make my own final remarks on it.
Yeah.
Which monologue?
When he's sitting in the group circle,
like the camera is kind of going slow, radial around him, and all the focus was on him.
Yeah, he's at Curtis's group meeting. This is where he decides to be. He could be anywhere in the world, but he decides to be in Curtis's group. And he says a lot of things, but like the ultimate thing I get from it is that this man who at times has shown very few signs of fear, this man who has killed plenty of people, mostly of whom have deserved it, who has done things that most people couldn't even physically do. This man who has survived more than most people wouldn't be able to survive. At the end of the day, he's what people should fear. He's the Punisher,
right?
But he's scared.
Yeah.
Like he himself is full of. Now I won't say he's full of fear, but he does have demons that still haunt him. He's scared now, and I think he's scared because he doesn't know really what to do.
Like what's next?
Yeah.
Doubt.
Right.
I mean, he's had. I mean, it's been years and years for the death of his family to drive him in this direction. He's always had that pushing him towards whatever the next mission was, so to speak. We talked about earlier his military mindset. Now, I mean, he's got his life.
Yeah.
He's not on the run necessarily. He's not on some mission of vengeance. He's got this new pal in Micro that's got his back and everything.
Yeah.
Who was not part of his unit over there.
Right.
He was just this guy that Frank Castle would normally never even be friends with.
Who at this point now he does have trust for.
Yeah, they have a ton of respect for each other at this point.
Yeah.
That's a really great relationship.
Yeah, because just like in war, they survive things that that most people wouldn't be able to survive together.
Right.
Yeah. Also, really quick, why do you guys think Frank didn't want to go to Thanksgiving dinner?
His part was done with him. Besides, it would have been a little weird. Let's think about it.
It would have been a little weird.
Yeah. Like, so I kissed you and I kissed you, but you died twice. I saw you die twice.
Yeah.
And you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
Plus, he had all the flashbacks.
Yeah,
from before.
that's my thoughts were.
Them having them at the dinner table and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he got Billy Russo back, but that's not going to fix his psyche overnight.
Yeah.
He's still withdrawn. Yeah. And there still has to be more for the Punisher to do.
Yeah.
And that definitely, I think, is, again, part of where that fear comes from that we were talking about, too. I'm fascinated to see where the hell we go next with him.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Because one thing about the Punisher, that even in the comics, he doesn't get his. Unfortunately for the character Frank, he never really gets his resolution. He never really gets peace. He doesn't get that. But what do you guys think happens next for Frank Castle and the next Netflix MCU? Like, let me rephrase that question. What do you guys want to see next?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, definitely, I want to see him in the Defenders.
Yeah, Defenders 2.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I want to see Micro in the Defenders, because one good thing Defenders did is it did bring in all the sidekicks and sidekicks and everything, especially that scene where they're in the room and they're all kind of like waiting to see what happens to them. Micro, to me, and Frank have the best relationship of any of those two characters.
I agree.
In any of the shows, really. I mean, there are some good ones.
Yeah, I think if Stick was still alive, he'd be close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
But, with Micro and Frank, we really got to go from seeing them be these polar opposite characters, different backgrounds, and now they have this incredible camaraderie, respect, all that for each other. So I would love to see both him and Micro in Defenders, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least maybe do something, another, kind of cameo for a few episodes in another one of the heroes, because they're going to team up Luke Cage and Iron Fist for like half of, I think, the Luke Cage season or something like that. So, maybe have him in that role.
Yeah. I think that'd be really cool, really good to see too. Now, I don't know how long they plan on running with the Punisher series, but I do know that it's only inevitable. Micro and Frank, they're not going to be partners forever. They're not going to be friends forever. it's gonna break down, and when it does, I think it's gonna make for really riveting television.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think it's gonna be really good when that happens. And also, obviously, I want to see Jigsaw. I want to see Jigsaw.
Exactly. I want to see his new face.
Oh yeah.
Because you know he's going to come back, and if he's the villain next season, I mean, I think he will be.
Yeah.
I think that in season 2 of Punisher, he'll be the next villain.
Yeah.
I would love to see I would like to see them not do that. I would love to see them either he's a Defenders villain,
right?
Maybe not the main one because Luke Cage could just show up and hit him,
right?
And he would wish he was fighting Frank.
Right.
Maybe he's a villain in Defenders, and that is how they bring Frank in, how Frank gets involved, because that would be a good segue for him to get involved in. Or maybe they do season 2 of Punisher, and then at the very end, maybe we see them taking the wrappings off of him, and then he comes back in 3. I would love for them to wait, and not just go straight into it for the next season.
That'd be good too. Yeah, I would also like to see the Russian mafia in season 2, specifically the Russian. Obviously, the Kevin Nash, he played the part of the Russian.
Yeah, he did really well.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, that was, I think, my favorite part of the Thomas Jane movie was the scene with the giant Russian. But I would love to see that happen as well. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of really fun shit that can happen here. But before we close this thing up, do you guys have any closing comments or remarks or thoughts about the Punisher series?
This has become my favorite Netflix series.
It's definitely mine.
Oh yeah,
it has a lot of the tropes of kind of the Netflix MCU,
right? As
we've come to know it. There's an episode where the hero is injured, and he spends an episode on his ass. There's a hallway fight. There is it heavily draws on flashbacks. If there's any negative that I have to this show, I think the flashbacks to his family were very, they just nailed that in. I think every episode has at least one. Some of them have multiples.
Right.
So if there's any negative I could even remotely point out about this show, that'd probably be it. Is maybe they laid that on pretty thick.
Little thick.
It is essential to his character.
Yeah. But we get it.
Yeah, we get it. It's the Tony Stark panic attacks. We get it. But that's the only negative I could come up with.
Right.
I sat here for a week and I was like, what do I not like about this?
Exactly.
And that's all I could come up with.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. It follows a similar format to the other Netflix shows. True. Maybe it could have been 10 episodes instead of 13. I have that complaint about a few of them.
Yeah.
But it is the best iteration of all of those elements, I feel like.
I think I do agree. I go back and forth on this and Daredevil. Because it is a toss-up, but then oftentimes I think that maybe it's just my my bias because I'm a bigger Daredevil fan than Punisher.
Right.
But once again, it's hard to say. Like you have to ask me on a specific day of the week, and I'll give you a different answer.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is the only MCU Netflix show with 0 supernatural elements.
That's very true.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very much more grounded.
Yeah,
very the whole time.
But yeah, this all in all, in my opinion, was an amazing season of television. I cannot wait to see him come back. I can't wait for season 2. And to be honest, I hope that this sets the benchmark for all the other MCU television shows because this is that good. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and close up shop here. Caleb, thank you again, brother, for being on, man.
Very much so.
This has been a pleasure as always. Because I know sometimes maybe Kevin gets tired of me, so I was like, well, let me bring in someone else.
Someone else to get tired of you.
Yeah. But also thank all you guys for listening as always. You guys really keep us afloat here at the Superhero Homies podcast. And, as always, we do appreciate you guys listening. This coming Wednesday will be our review of Winter Soldier, which is my personal favorite movie so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I cannot wait to have a reason to watch this movie again.
I can't wait to listen to that podcast.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun. And as always, guys, if you have any questions, comments, gifts, threats, food supplies, or artifacts, then hit us up at superherohomies@gmail.com or the Facebook page of the same name, Superhero Homies. We're going to go ahead and close things up this week, guys. But as always, we appreciate you guys listening in. And if you like what you hear, then hit the subscribe button or maybe give us a review on iTunes. That also helps us out. But as always, Caleb, thank you again, brother, for being on. My name is Quentin.
I'm Kevin.
This is Caleb.
Yep. See you guys next time.